people who couldn't win, so instead they're just trying to change the rules after they lost. I am so sick and tired of people who have no interest in the hobby invading the space and trying to ruin it. First we had Collective Shout coming in and censoring games, getting them removed from Steam. Then we have the UK coming in with their Online Safety Act, basically destroying people's privacy, and now we have people trying to come in to kill competition. I'm all for litigation and controls around predatory practices in video games. Things like gambling, things like digital currency, stop killing games, all the stuff that's going on with Roblox as an example. But you can't convince me that this isn't just a one-sided attack going after Steam because they are the best available platform on the market, and they're run so efficiently that it barely costs them anything to be able to run it. This is all under the guise of being anti-competitive. You know what's anti-competitive? Trying to make the fastest runner sit in a wheelchair because you want to turn the rest of the industry into the Special Olympics.
Oof.
The other platforms just simply aren't good enough. Steam is just in a class of its own. We are the kingmaker. We are the one that chose them. Did these guys ever think to take the time to just ask people whether or not they even wanted to try to use other platforms or try to use other storefronts? You represent 14 million gamers. Sure, I totally believe you. They act as though Steam's revenue just goes into the ether. Like it just disappears. It just goes to Gabe's boat or something like that. That's definitely not the case. I mean, they have 22 themed game fests for nearly every single genre that's going to be showcasing indie games all across the board, and it's not going to cost any of these developers a red cent as long as they're actually on the platform. Not to mention the absurd amount of tools and policies and protections that they have in place for their developers as well as their players. It's just, all these guys are just paying attention to the flow of the money, but they're not asking why that money is flowing. And I think that's the key to this entire conversation, because they don't actually care about any of this stuff. All they care about is the money. Notice how every single time somebody comes in and says that they're doing something for us, things always get worse. We get less choice, we get less freedom, and we get worse service. Nearly every single time. And that's exactly how this is going to go, because the one key thing that they're going to try to use as proof, the David to their Goliath in this situation, is that they caught Steam trying to protect their players. The horror. If any of these people bothered to ask users why they use Steam, they would immediately realize that the answer has nothing to do with what they're trying to burn it down over. I use Steam because it's simply the best service in the industry. It feels like it was built by gamers for gamers, and you feel that in every single part of the experience. It's wildly convenient. All my games are in one place. Modding is just checking a box, and at any moment, I can see how players actually feel about a game right now, not how it reviewed 6 months ago. Imagine being disconnected from the gaming world. You see a static score, 4.5 stars or 8 out of 10, with no context, no timeline, no warning. You buy the game only to find out that a recent update completely broke it. We've seen this happen repeatedly. Games that were critically adored at launch become borderline unplayable months later, and that protects us in a way. Lets us be able to know more about these games. It protects us from wasting our money, and I guess these people just don't like that. Now, one part of the conversation that we haven't touched on yet is the claim that Steam is forcing developers to avoid offering lower prices on other platforms, not just with Steam keys, but more broadly. This argument largely traces back to a lawsuit Valve is still currently dealing with right now, the Wolfire Games case that started back in 2021. In that suit, Wolfire points to communications with Valve employees, suggesting that if developers offered lower prices somewhere else, Steam could take action, including reduced promotion or even removing the game entirely from the storefront. From a legal standpoint, that's getting framed as anti-competitive behavior and in violation of anti-steering rules. Wolfire backs this up with internal emails and direct conversations with Valve, but I want you guys to pay very close attention to the language being used. The Wolfire suit lists emails and internal conversations that read as follows. We'll never show up and ask you to undercut your customers on other stores, and we expect you'll treat our customers with the same respect. This is a platform goal that goes beyond Steam keys. And use the threat of not promoting them or stop selling it altogether if they raise their price elsewhere or lower the price on Steam, right? Our practice is to have a conversation with the developer to understand why the price is lower elsewhere and see if we can figure out a way to get Steam's price to a similar price that it is on other platforms. We wouldn't be okay with selling games on Steam if they were available at better prices on other stores, even if they didn't use Steam keys. If you want to sell a non-Steam version of your game at $10 at retail and $20 on Steam, we would ask that you lower the price or stop selling the game on Steam if we couldn't treat our customers fairly. All right, now, sure, you can make the argument that this is anti-competitive. That's the legal framing. But from my perspective, and probably yours, this is inherently pro-consumer and honestly, unfathomably based. Steam doesn't want to compete on price because, as they said in their emails, it doesn't treat the customer fairly. And they're right. Price competition is the laziest form of competition because it doesn't require you to be better. You just get to jerk the customer around. If the platform is worse, well, you just get to cut prices and it avoids having to actually fix anything. You don't have to improve your features, your infrastructure, or your trust. You get to subsidize inconvenience and call it competition. At that point, users are not choosing a platform because it's good. They're choosing it because it's cheaper, and that's a far lower bar to clear. Beyond that, the moment the price becomes the primary lever, we are the ones that are being inconvenienced. We are the ones that have to pay for it. Players get pushed around. We have to juggle storefronts, fragment our libraries, and we lose out on features just to avoid feeling overcharged. How exactly is that fair to us? I think what these companies are afraid of is real competition, competing on service, because if you win that way, well, now you're forced to keep earning your users, and we're the ones that stay in control, and that is definitely something that these guys do not want to have to deal with. It's way easier for them to just cut prices rather than to have to build something better, and that's why these guys keep trying to change the rules. What I find so absurd about all of this is that Valve doesn't even do any of this in practice, and even when their competitors try to undercut them on price, it doesn't even work, because price cutting doesn't keep customers when the service itself is worse. Steam is just the better platform. That's why people keep choosing it. Tim Sweeney can complain about it all he wants. He can call Steam unlawful, but his own storefront proves the opposite of what he's arguing. There are tons of games that Epic gives away for free that are not on Steam for free, and the players still choose to buy them on Steam anyway. This came up just recently when the head of New Blood pointed out that their new game Blood West sold over 200% more copies on Steam, even while it was being given away for free on the Epic Game Store. Sweeney tried to cope in a response, saying gamers and developers win by having more options and better deals, but the growth charts do not back that up. Epic's own numbers show that while its users have tripled over the last 7 years, third-party revenue, games people are actually buying, has only grown by 1.6%. Even free is not enough to overcome a worse service. People will always choose the better platform when they're allowed to, and that's exactly what lawsuits like this threaten. The entire case that they've built around it is this idea that Steam is somehow responsible for higher prices, but what do they actually expect to happen? That the prices are magically going to drop? We already have standardized pricing across the industry. Do they think that Ubisoft, Microsoft, EA, or anybody else is suddenly going to start charging less for their games while they're also openly pushing for $100 games? Of course not. They're just going to pocket the difference, and we're going to get nothing. Now, you could argue that this helps smaller developers, and sure, I would go ahead and agree with you on that. That's less money to a middleman and more money to the creator and more games for us, but that's the optimistic version that almost never actually plays out in reality. Prices are going to stay the same or keep rising, and the only real outcome is an industry punishing one of the few platforms that goes out of its way to work for us. And that's exactly what Steam does. Yes, they've been litigated into changing some of their behavior over the years, but compared to the rest of the industry, they have consistently taken the high road almost every single time. Steam is the only major platform with a no questions asked refund policy. They force developers to honor their deadlines on season passes and DLC so their customers don't get rug pulled. They offer family sharing so you're not rebuying the same game 5 times for a single household. They banned in-game ads while everybody else was rushing to go and patent different ways to inject them into video games. And they banned crypto and blockchain games outright because they knew it would put their customers at risk. None of this is accidental. None of it's universal. Epic Store doesn't protect any of their users from this. They openly criticize Valve for doing so. Epic went all in on crypto. They have no problem with ads. Their refund policy can take days, and that's assuming that it ever actually gets approved at all. And more recently, Tim Sweeney has argued that players don't even need to know whether or not a game used generative AI, something that Steam explicitly discloses to their users by default. From where I'm standing, Steam builds rules to protect their players, and everybody else is just complaining that those rules are getting in the way of making money. That's why I believe that this entire thing, whether it's the litigators, Tim Sweeney, the other competitors, all they're trying to do is just use outside forces, use outside litigation to try to regulate their competitor rather than actually trying to compete with them. Legal action and regulation have become the only hope that these guys have left, simply because they just don't take the time to reflect. They don't take the time to think about why people don't want to use them. Why are they losing? I think these guys default to the idea that Steam must be doing something underhanded because it's the only thing that they know. I think that these companies and outside investors are doing whatever they can to try to pressure Steam and put them into a weakened state. Not only because it gives them an opportunity to hopefully steal some of their customers, but also I think it's because they're hoping that it might make Valve loosen their grip on how they protect their players, and also just the quality of service that the platform has by itself. If they make less money, then that means that there's less money that goes into the platform, and then also maybe they might, oh, I don't know, let ads through. They might let crypto through or something else. The reason they want that, and that's the route that they're trying to go, is because their games are also on Steam. They can't be doing shady stuff on their platform, but just not do it on Steam. They need everybody else to jump at the same time, and I think that's what these guys are trying to go for. I don't know, man. If Steam loses this, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt really bad, and it's not just the initial $900 million that they have to pay out. It's gonna be the subsequent changes that they're actually gonna have to make to Steam to their own commissions, which is gonna have long-lasting effects on how much money the company can make. Also, at the same time, it goes into the position of them getting basically sued pretty much across the world, because when you see a class action lawsuit out in one area, you're going to see it in other countries. So these guys are already under a lot of legal pressure from a lot of different places right now, and this is just going to add on top of it. So who knows how much something like this could cost them. And we're not going to see anything from it. We're not going to get any benefit from it. What do you, like, no. In no universe is that ever going to happen. The only thing that's going to end up happening is just going to be the exact same thing that we saw with digital games, where, oh, we're not making this anymore, so you're going to get savings because of that. That never happened. Same thing goes for AI. Oh, it's going to cut costs. None of those savings are ever going to be handed down to the customer. Those guys are just going to pocket all of that stuff. It's always going to be the same. Either prices are going to go up or they're going to stay the same. Believing otherwise, simply naive. Also, the other thing that I'm going to say, and I need to take more time to think about this, but there's also something really gross about having a government wanting to come in and telling Valve how much money they can make, how much commission they're allowed to charge for, especially when you're not talking about any of the other companies in the industry. Seeing as that 30% is not something that is just foreign and it's only Valve that's doing it. No, it's every single company that's doing it. So if you're just focused on Valve and saying that these guys are too profitable, they're just too damn good at what they do, that you need to nerf them specifically, I don't see, one, how that's competitively fair, and two, how you have the right to do that. I don't like that. I don't know. But tell me what you guys think. Are you one of the 14 million gamers that these guys are representing? 14 million gamers. Sound off. Let me hear you in the comment section. Tell me about how much you hate Steam, apparently. Hopefully, this doesn't actually go through and these guys just get annihilated in court. That's at least what I'm hoping for. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the video, share the video, comment, like it. I already said like it. Comment again. Comment like 3 or 4 times, maybe even more. I'm not really too sure. Follow me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm getting tired right now. Sorry. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. Peace.
Is America okay? By Shoe on Head. The answer is no. Irrecoverably, no. America is not okay. Specifically, the U.S., yes, because, you know, North America, South America, not okay. The U.S. is not okay. Any way you look at it. That being said, this is going to be a very interesting video. If you need to click off this video, if this is something you don't want to talk about, you know, with, you know, current mental state, things going on, it just being too much, that's perfectly fine. I like metrics as much as the next person, but like I always say, make sure you're spending time watching things you want to watch, and make sure that you're taking care of yourself, something I need to take more to heart. That being said, we also have the Dingus Unhinged podcast. I'm going to use this as a shameless plug, where we've free ranted about some stuff. I've also been transparent. We are using AI for the thumbnails. That will change once it actually gets enough metrics to sustain itself. I will be going back through and spending money on an artist to go through all of the thumbnails and change them back. So, with all those disclaimers out of the way, let's dive into a rather spicy video with our favorite white woman. I know the internet's very scared of that W word. I'm into this.
Hello friends, my name is Shuonhead, and welcome to my new series, The Hell World Report. Some of you may remember my old series that was just called Hell World. If you do, you can qualify for a veterans discount. Congratulations!
I remember it. I haven't watched it, if I'm being honest.
And if you remember the Gamergate days, well, please come collect your retirement. But yeah, if you have not seen my old series, go check it out. I will put the link to the playlist down below. I think it's a really interesting time capsule into the years 2020 and 2021, like how crazy it was back then, and then in retrospect comparing it to how crazy it is now. But this is a shorter, more condensed version of that series. Think of
Shorter and more condensed, still 34 minutes. That's like me saying it's going to be a short reaction and then it turning into a 2-hour reaction, which I've done way too many times.
it as a Temu, Jon Stewart, or Stephen Colbert before they morphed into the same flavor of shitless. You see, I'm better than those late night Jimmies because I don't get my news from mainstream sources like some kind of hack. No. I get it from far more reputable places like Instagram Reels and Femboy Goiper 69 on Twitter.
Okay.
Integrating new PDA data.
I'm sure Femboy user has some great political.
From furry ballrooms and the Epstein files to OnlyFans green cards and kidnapping foreign leaders, from government-funded purple-haired girlfriends to a potential civil war, we have a very packed show for you today. It has been a crazy year. And it is only January. As I am filming this, we are currently having a huge winter storm.
This morning, snow, ice, and frigid temperatures sweeping across the nation. 20 states under a state of emergency.
Ah yes, perfect weather to make some poor immigrant deliver me chicken tendies. It's so cold that Michigan and Minnesota received reports about exploding trees. Leftists said no more ice, and God said...
Isn't it because ice expands, right? Like, so liquid freezes and then expands, right? And that's, if I understand it correctly, that's why frozen trees happen. Like, the sap inside the trees actually freezes, and it expands, and then just pressure builds up, and then boom. Very fascinating stuff. I love science.
Anyway, in news that should have stayed in 2016, apparently there is a new term women have coined called man-keeping.
Okay.
Man-keeping is why women are done with dating.
Okay, please enlighten me as to what man-keeping is. Please, what flavor of male bashing are we getting into this week? Dude, I don't know. At a certain point, you have to stop being upset because it's so absurd, right? These people generally are not okay in the head, right? It's so silly.
Researchers at Stanford have finally given a name to something many women have been dealing with for years. It's called man-keeping, and it's helping explain why so many women are stepping away from dating altogether.
So hear me out. Step away. Just do it, right? It's like, so here's the thing, right? You want an actual equivalent to this? Me making my umpteenth post on, hey, I'm feeling sick and not okay. Kip, step away from your PC and get some sleep, right? At what point do I just go, man, chat's right, I should step away from my PC and get sleep? That's probably why I sound like a little higher pitched today, because I've been playing RuneScape again, so that's been taking up my time. I've been very much enjoying it too. But at the same time, it's also like, man, maybe I just need to not say the thing and do the thing. Like, that's the thing, right? Like, it's like an apology. There's two parts to an apology. The first part is, hi, I messed up. I acknowledge I messed up. The second half is actually like following through on the thing, right? Hi, I messed up in making a community post where I said I was tired. Going forward, I need to just go to sleep, right? And that's the follow through, right? You get into a weird area. This is an area I get into because I've known a lot of narcissists where I will outright deny someone the ability to apologize, which is by its nature very controlling because you're denying the opportunity for growth, right? Like, someone got really upset about some of my firearms content. Well, Ruben, thanks for the watch streak. Thanks for the 25. Wow. And they got really angry. And then down the line, they want to apologize. Like, hey, I was kind of heated. And it's like, no, don't apologize. Just own your actions, right? Which is not how that's supposed to work. And I'm aware that that's something I need to work on. Because a lot of this, we're going to explain in this video, a lot of my current mentality is if you didn't want to do the thing, then don't do the thing. However, that doesn't constitute that we're all human and makes mistakes. So please, I'm ready for this. What is man-keeping?
Man-keeping describes the emotional labor women end up doing in heterosexual relationships. It goes beyond remembering birthdays or coordinating social plans. It means being your partner's one-man support system, managing his stress, interpreting his moods, holding his hand through feelings he won't share with anyone else. All of it unpaid, unacknowledged, and often unreciprocated.
Dude, there's so much to unpack with this. Then well, let me let her continue.
I hate this therapy speak people talk with nowadays. Emotional labor? You mean being there for your
Yep.
partner? This is why so many people are just gonna start dating ChatGPT. People thought men were gonna be the ones dating AI. No. They're gonna be the ones with these sex robots. Women are the ones who want the daily affirmation machines.
No. See, women, they want the Minotaur, okay? We've reacted to her video about the book, okay? They want like Gregorovich the Minotaur and his like 16-inch salami is how we're gonna word that. Yes, it's a broad overgeneralization.
Yes, honey, I love when you talk about all the drama at work. Tell me more about that bitch Veronica. Man-spreading, mansplaining, man-interrupting, man-keeping, manscaping. Speaking of manscaping, before we dive into the news, let's quickly give a shout out to today's sponsor, a sponsor that can help you with your manscaping, Henson Shaving.
Honestly, 10 segue. I like that.
For the last few decades, razors haven't been designed to work better. They've been designed to be marketed better. More blades, more features, more gimmicks, and skin irritation is just something you're told to deal with. A big cause for that irritation is blade flex. Most razors use springs to let the blades move as you shave. That causes extra friction and razor burn, so people use aftershave, cold water, moisturizer, whatever. They fix the symptoms instead of the cause. But the question nobody asks is, should the blade actually move? How do we fix the actual problem? That's where Henson Shaving comes in. By fully supporting a two-sided blade all across its length at a 30-degree angle, they hold the blade in place to prevent any bouncing, skipping, just giving you an irritation-free shave. No springs, no movement, no reason to compensate with pressure. What separates Henson is the precision behind their design. With their Henson AL13 safety razor being manufactured in the same aerospace machine shop that built parts for the International Space Station. This level of precision allows the blade to extend just 1/1000th of an inch beyond the shave plane, less than the thickness of a human hair. Since I switched to Henson like almost 2 years ago now, I've noticed my shaves have been way silkier and smoother. No tugging, no cuts, just a close shave that feels great on my skin. And here is the best part. Once you invest in a Henson razor, it is a lifetime purchase. The only thing you'll need to replace is the blades, which cost 10 cents each. So once you own the razor, you'll only be spending like $3 to $5 per year on blades, compared to the ongoing cost of buying those little plastic cartridges. Also, the Henson store offers a bunch of different colors, so you can pick out the razor that best suits your vibe. So if you're tired of razor burn, skin irritation, and paying for overpriced razor blades, Henson Shaving is definitely worth checking out. Just head over to hensonshaving.com/shoe and add both a Henson razor and 100 blades to your cart. Then enter the code SHOE at checkout to get the blades free with your purchase. Big thanks to Henson Shaving for sponsoring this video, and thank you, the viewer, as always, for not skipping the ad. You did it, right? Now, let's
Dude, I'd never skip it. 100%.
get back to the video.
So, okay, I'd give it an 8. I thought it was good. M&J TV has kind of, with his ad reads, has kind of really shaped my perspective a little bit. To get to that 10, it has to be additive to the piece, if that makes sense, right? Like, you have to, like, enjoy watching the piece so much that the ad read feels like it's more content for you, right? Like Grunty Boy, right? And then the M&J TV reactions, right? So I would give that an 8. I would say audio is decently consistent. The issue I run into is and it's because of the setup, right? A little bit of an echo. You can kind of hear the reverb, so maybe some audio sound, some soundproofing, some audio stuff would probably help with that. Audio snob stuff that, me and maybe like 5 other people are going to look at, right? But I mean, it was a good ad read. I think it was great. I don't think it was like super exceptional. I mean, it matched target demographic in my opinion. Segue was good. Segue was awesome. Felt just a little long, but I think that's just like advertiser length, right? I don't know. I would give this an 8. I think it was good. So to backtrack on a couple points, I'm going to be pretty brief about them. If your issue in a relationship is having to spend so much time into emotional turmoil, whatever they said, right? And you have to be so available without it being reciprocated. Like, are you in a good relationship or are you not in a good relationship? If you're in a good relationship and you're feeling feelings of inadequacy, maybe you need to also examine your this is a conversation I could literally rant on like for an hour because there's so many variables, right? I think that is a very poor way to view things, because here's the thing, right? If I get into a relationship with somebody, or someone gets into a relationship with multiple partners, okay? You're in a relationship. You're in a committed relationship. You're supposed to be there. Are you supposed to take abuse? No, absolutely not. But part of that comes with supporting your partner and understanding your partner's not always going to be at their best, right? And you're going to do your best to make it work, right? To find compromise. And I feel that spits in the way of compromise, and it does. I've been using this recently. It almost feels like some of it's George Carlin soft language. I really need to watch that special, right? But it's like, and it's whatever the wording was. I actually liken it to, well, you're just neurodivergent, and it's like, my diagnosis says Asperger's, my guy. Well, you can't use that term anymore because it's offensive because of the origin of that. I mean, my paper says this. Are you a doctor? Are you a professional? Because this is what I have been diagnosed with. Go away, right? I feel like part of that is the rise of that soft language stuff. And here's the thing: if you genuinely don't feel like a relationship is giving you something, like, you need to assess if it's time to leave. You need to assess your priorities. You need to assess, is this healthy for me, right? And sometimes you're in a committed relationship I wouldn't even necessarily under duress, right? Because out of like convenience, right? Because it's easier for you to be in a relationship because it's easier on rent or something like that. But you need to find ways to work through. You need to find ways to compromise. And that's why I think a lot of modern relationships are going to fail, because that is a me, I need my needs met approach rather than, yeah, I need my needs met, but I also want to help my partner out. And let's find ways to work together, right? If one partner likes hiking, but the other likes playing games all day, like card games, right? They sit in the sweaty game shop and play Magic all day, which is fine. What can you do together? Maybe you play Pokemon together on your Switch systems, right? Or 3DSs, right? So there's a lot to unpack with that one. Very much a case-by-case situation. I think it's really silly that this is the new trending thing.
All right. Let's start with some good news.
I'm ready.
The median age of home buyers is now 59.
Nice.
Yeah, but that's not all. America's seniors will now see a new $6,000 bonus exemption as part of the Working Families Tax Cut. That's $93 billion in tax cuts for seniors all over the country.
I mean, I don't remember voting for this. Do you remember voting for this? I mean, what happened to pull yourself by your bootstraps? We don't take no handouts, right? That's what I'm saying, right? Seems like there's a lot of handouts happening, okay? Come on, Grandma. I know you're 70. Walmart's hiring.
And by Working Families Tax Cut, they mean you, the working family, giving another billion-dollar wealth transfer to the most oppressed class. Boomers. Mm-hmm. Why are we giving these geriatric another tax break? Maybe they should pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Maybe they should stop buying so much avocado toast.
Honestly, Shu and I, same page. So here's the thing, right? I'm fine working for my money. If I need to step away or I need sleep, I have the ability to do so doing YouTube and stuff, right? That's something I have the ability to do. But I'm ultimately fine working for my money. It's actually part of the reason why, because I wasn't getting to requests because Patreon was actually causing issues. Next time I do Patreon benefits, there will not be reaction recommendations. I'm kind of done with that. Five times is more than enough. And there are plenty of awesome and amazing people who wanted to support and who had genuine requests, but it was kind of ruined by the unfortunate few who recommend duplicate videos or recommend, things that are just obscene, right? Patreon rules clearly stated 40 minutes, right? Or up to 45 minutes. Person sends a 53 to 57 minute Scooby-Doo video, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this anymore, right? So it's about controlling what I can do, right? What can I control? I can't control other people. But what I can control is finding a way where it's sustainable enough to work and to consistently work and to bring people reactions, which some may like, some may not like, right? I'm fine working for my money. And it's very strange because I see this with upper management as well. Like retired at work, right? Retired at work is a thing, and don't get me wrong. Like we've definitely seen a parabolic curve upwards of duties and responsibilities at the workplace, and you know how that's negatively impacting people, right? How your 9 to 5 is turned into a 7 to 7, and you're on call 7 days a week. We've talked about all of this before, right? It all comes back to these same core issues that never get addressed, right? And nobody wants to address these. Nobody wants to fix these because, I mean, it'll look bad in the short term, won't it? We need to take a pause. You know, interest rates might need to go up for a little bit before they can come back down. Oh no, we can't have that, right? So thus you will enter stagnation territory. But I agree with her. And you know what? So here's the thing as well, right? Like, look, if you're 50, 60, 70, 80, I don't care. I'm sure you're a wonderful person, right? I take issue when the systems seem like they're being abused. And I've 100% worked with people in grocery stores. I've worked with people in finance. I mean, they're older, right? They're 60s, working in retail. I've seen, upwards of 70s, right? People can work. But once this comes into a weird situation, and it's very case by case, because what about disability? What about Social Security, right? What about XYZ ABC, right? Don't even get me started on veteran benefits that, they're clearly not getting, right? And we've talked about that several times. Like, if you're promised benefits, that's one thing, right? When it feels like this keeps snowballing and it's enabling really awful behaviors from a decent chunk of a populace, that's when we run into issues, right? That's where there's a disconnect.
God forbid we help young families raise the next generation of Americans.
Mm-hmm.
No, that would be communism.
Cringe.
Young people are poor as nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
What are they supposed to do?
Piper Raquel, 18, claims she made $2.9 million in a single day after launching OnlyFans.
That's it. I'm doing a career pivot. I'm just going to become Project Melody too. I'm going to become male Project Melody. That's what's going to happen, okay? I'm going to wear a purple leopard skin, what do they call Speedos? Bro, it's going to be great. I'm going to make the best OF / Fansly content. It's going to be great.
No more rights. No more women's rights. I am ready for the Islamic Revolution. Mayor Mamdani, please press the Islamification button. I know the go-to joke is always, haha, women, am I right? But I think the real question here is, should men be allowed to have credit cards?
So, funny fact, we've talked about this before. Back in ye olde days, let's say ye olde days, like what, as late as 1970 or 1980, if you were a woman, you couldn't have a credit card without your husband's approval. No, we never need to go back to times like that. That is so many levels of FUBAR.
Women didn't magically create millions of dollars with her mind out of thin air. No, millions of men made this woman a millionaire overnight. Where's the accountability for that? I'm out here policing the whores. We need some men to be out there policing the simps. We have a simp epidemic. Simps are out of control. Not all of them though. Mine are cool. They can stay.
So hear me out, men. Hear me out. Let's address the issue a little bit, okay? So when we talk about paying for content, right? When we talk about paying for it, we have the internet. Much of that is for free. So why would you want to pay for content? Maybe to have that sort of parasocial relationship, to feel like you're impacting someone's life in a positive way. If you take some of that parasocialism out and take that celebrity status away, why not just go free? All I'm saying, okay? I think that it would be fair. Like, don't get me wrong, right? I'm sure plenty of people who follow me, plenty of people who follow, Shu. Pretty sure plenty of them love their spicy subscriptions to people, and that's fine. Free is free. Like, as it turns out, you could find something new and entirely different that you like by just sticking with free options. Like, you don't have to tap to pay. That is entirely within your ability to do. And I'm sure that you could look up studies, or I'm sure that you could look up statistics, something like that, where there is a just almost zero chance of ever even being seen by an individual within this kind of work, right? And I also think that it's a little disingenuous and even a little cringe to subscribe to somebody to think that you'll build that parasocial relationship, right? I don't know. Just thoughts from a dingus on the internet. So just think on it at 3 a.m.
Also, isn't this like the third OnlyFans 18th birthday announcement, and the woman turns into a millionaire overnight. Someone a little sus about that. But don't worry, thanks to AI, we are entering a new age of goonerism.
Oh, I hate this. I saw this.
Systems online.
Honestly, what's the big deal? Men are already talking to the guys in India who run the accounts of OnlyFans models. Is this really any different? The internet is slowly but surely just becoming Indian men scamming other Indian men. But don't worry, not every internet waifu is a man using AI. In fact, if you live in the UK, you may get a state-funded, far-right, purple-haired waifu.
I'm sorry, what?
Introducing Pathways, a point-and-click video game created by the UK government to help prevent online radicalization.
Pathways is an educational visual novel and learning experience created by the UK media company Shoutout UK, with funding from UK government's Prevent program run by the Home Office. The game is meant to teach the youth about dangers of radicalization and extremism in both real life and online. This is done by putting the players in a role of a character named Charlie, who must navigate 6 different scenarios relating to extremism. In the
All I can think of Charlie is from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. This makes this even better. Oh, I love this. Hi, Ellie. This is real. I have to do this as part of an ethics training. This is wild. What is happening?
second scenario, the player is introduced to the character Amelia, a staunch anti-immigration protester depicted as a goth girl with purple hair, a pink dress, and a choker.
And the internet instantly fell in love with her.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Oh, she is very much on some very spicy sites. You just even at first look, okay? Like you know when a video game releases a brand new character, and you immediately know that the artists are picking up their pens and digital brushes and stuff, right? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, ooh, there's definitely some spice with her.
It's like they made her have short purple hair, thinking that that would prevent this from happening. But the UK failed to consider the fact that conservatives love art hoes. They act like they don't, they'll deny it, they'll pretend they just want a blonde traditional housewife, but deep down every conservative wants a woman who looks like this, who says the N-word. Government-funded video games.
Bro, well, so hold up. So we laugh about this, right? But the US they have their army game, right? Or did they redact that? It was on Steam once upon a time. Like we had games that were like, you know, United States military branded, right? We had military recruiters playing them, right? And then they got harassed and, you know, Twitch chat, and that was, I mean, come on, man. Like, it's just their job. I don't know. That's a weird one. COG gets DOD money too. Yeah, so we laugh at this. But is the US any better? Look, all I'm saying, if the White House tomorrow just put in front of me, you know, here is your state-issued, purple-haired, black leather-wearing goth waifu, your government-issued waifu. I mean, maybe that would turn some heads, okay? Maybe that's what some people need, okay? That's how you drum up recruitment efforts, okay? You just turn each of the branches into a waifu. Wait a minute, what am I saying you turn them into? I'm sure each of the branches already have waifus of them. Just imagining Army waifu and Navy waifu, and they're just madly just kissing each other. Oh my God, yes, please. Oh, see, we've done it, chat. We've solved military recruitment. That's how you drum up support.
Incredible. At least our government doesn't do weird shit like that. No, our government is very normal.
Nice.
Believe it or not, Mar-a-Lago Furry Party was on my 2026 bingo card.
Damn, I wasn't. I honestly haven't even heard about this. Wild.
I miss when this weird shit was just done underground. I miss when these parties were secret. Speaking of, the Epstein files were released.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, no. We had an update. We had, Charlie, Voice Critical went over this. I've been very much holding off doing any videos because I've been trying to be more positive, right? When I delve into things like these, generally, I try to keep it pretty controlled and pretty condensed, right? Condensed to, you know, the hour and a half we watch Kami Mami, right? But, like, we had an update onto this. There were some names.
Ow!
Yeah,
Incredible.
This was
the
awful.
things they are showing us are eerie enough. I couldn't imagine the things that they're redacting. It is absolutely disgusting that these powerful people are still being protected. We as a country should be extremely concerned about an international child trafficking ring. This is not just something we all move from, and we kidnapped the president of Venezuela.
Yeah, so I actually have a mixed opinion on this. I think this is an example of Hexeth being incredibly soft and inefficient with the military, because it was like, what, a 3.5 hour operation, or it's a 3 or 5 hour operation. And I looked at that and go, that's actually really slow. Not to the guys, the boots on the ground, but to military management who made this take way longer than it should have. Don't get me wrong, I'm a dingus on the internet. My qualifications to speak on this are pretty much nil. I think this shows Hexeth's weakness because it took longer than it should have for a lightning quick operation.
Breaking just now, Maduro, the president says, has been captured.
Maduro has been captured and flown out of the country.
In total, more than 150 aircraft, bombers, fighters, intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance, rotary wing were in the air last night.
First pictures of Nicolas Maduro on the Iwo Jima that he was being transferred on.
Trump voters voted to fix the economy and to afford homes again. They didn't vote to kidnap communists in the middle of the night. Actually, they probably did vote for that.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I don't know, dude. And that's the thing, is like, I feel like it's been weird because it's been touted that some people are having buyer's remorse, and it's like, what do you mean? Did we not spend, what was it, 2020 through 2024 with everybody talking about how bad you are if you voted for the blue party, and you know how you're just this woke, insert other buzzwords here, right? Did we not just talk about that? Or was that not what a lot of people like? So now I guess the shoe is on the other foot, or I guess the shoe is on the head in this case. And I guess similar criticisms can't be levied because they're being asked for patience and understanding. Just own it at that point, right? Remember the whole King Trump thing? And every single comment that was supporting that I received, none of them replied when I say, "Isn't this what you voted for? Is this not like?" I mean, this is supported, right? Like, this is what your vote went to, and nobody wants to answer it. So I don't understand the soft language stuff, and I hope, and you know, it's gonna piss people off. I don't understand the soft language stuff of you vote for the thing, you get the thing, and then suddenly you have buyer's remorse. I don't. It's not even that I don't understand it. It's just like, don't allow it, right? Like, just, hey, this is what you wanted. That's fine, right? I don't know. It's very strange. And that's the thing, is it's like, I don't tell anyone who I vote for. It is none of your business, okay? I could have voted one way, I could have voted the other. I could have voted completely independent. I could have voted Bugs Bunny, okay? It's no one's business, right? And at the end of the day, just make the decision that you think was best for you and your decisions. But don't have this weird buyer's remorse that suddenly things aren't going the way that you expected them to, right? Because if you could do that to one half of the audience, the other half can do that to you. Is that not how that works?
Never mind.
The oil companies are going to go in, they're going to spend money, we're going to take back the oil that, frankly, we should have taken back a long time ago.
I heard something last night. I can't substantiate this. Allegedly, he had a little dumpy talking to a bunch of press people last night as of reacting to this on January 31st, I guess. I guess he took a dump. I'm pretty sure it's AI. Dude, I have no way of substantiating that right now. I'm not in another window, so I can't actually check. But it's like, oh, he did it, bro! Commander in poopy pants, let's go, bro! Talk about a shitty time, am I right? Oh, man's got diarrhea of the mouth in 2 ways. Oh, man. Oh, that's funny. But see, here's the thing, right? What we were just talking about. Oh, but you need to give us time and understanding. I mean, didn't we collectively dunk on Biden for being senile? So how is this different? I mean, dude literally wrecked himself. Oh, I love this for him. Oh, that's the best news I've heard all week. Oh, I love this for him.
Holy sh**. This is the most transparent administration in history. They weren't lying. I don't know if it's the Stockholm Syndrome or what, but it's almost refreshing to hear a leader say, yeah, this is about oil. Like, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for just saying it's about oil. Thank you for not pretending it's about saving democracy and just doing imperialism the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, if you're gonna do shitty things, tell me you're doing shitty things. Simple as. Don't lie to me about it.
We have such terrible Middle Eastern war fatigue that it was shocking to not hear about how Venezuela is just jealous of our freedoms or some shit. Like, no, it's just for ExxonMobil. Like, okay, carry on.
The U.S. used a powerful mystery weapon that brought Venezuelan soldiers to their knees, bleeding through their nose and vomiting blood during the daring raid to capture dictator Nicolas Maduro.
Yeah, if you're wondering why we don't have healthcare, this is why.
It's because we spent it on healthcare.
Have invisible laser beams that can make people bleed out their f***ing eyes. Apparently, directed energy weapons are real. The Goy beam is real. Deep State files are real. Havana syndrome is real. Hell, it's almost like being a conspiracy theorist is just another word for being correct too early. What's next? COVID was fake?
There have been significant developments in the last 5 to 7 years on social, environment, and technology fronts that could help realize My Carbon initiatives for shaping the future towards smart and sustainable cities. COVID-19 was the test of social responsibility. A huge number of unimaginable restrictions for public health were adopted by billions of citizens across the world. There were numerous examples globally of maintaining social distancing, wearing masks, mass vaccinations, and acceptance of contact tracing applications for public health, which demonstrated the core of individual social responsibility.
A whole lot of words. If you're saying that if you're saying this was planned in any way, shape, or form, and it's beyond a reasonable doubt confirmed that this was intentional, everyone who was a part of that can go into wood chipper, because people lost loved ones, people lost family members, people lost friends, and we don't get to play history revisionist when people literally didn't follow these. I will forever be bitter at the workplace that I worked at because they didn't enforce these, and I got the coof twice. Even though I worked in public, you know, with all the whole, like, the whole toilet paper, stuff like that, man, I worked through all that, didn't get COVID. The moment I worked in an office in a financial institution and they didn't care, I caught it twice. And I haven't been the same since. My brain just isn't the same. I will forever be bitter and hold every single one of those people accountable. Well, not accountable. I will hold them responsible, right? Accountability sounds like you're gonna do something, not gonna do something. But it's like, I will forever be bitter. That is not something you get over. Yeah, no. Anything about the pants outside self-identified climate activist? I don't know. If someone has anything on that, cool. We'll see. I'm just gonna laugh at it and chalk it up as needs to be verified.
Oh, sorry. I just owe many people many apologies. Anyway, Venezuela has no president. Who is going to run Venezuela?
So we are going to run the country.
A few moments later.
Hola, amigos. Yo soy su nuevo presidente, el señor Donaldo J. Trumpo.
Can we maybe just fix...
Somebody call ICE. Get that man. Do you think they'd go to the White House? Oh man, it's great.
It's our country first. Can we fix our broken infrastructure, our education system? Can we do a little nation building in this nation?
No, because as it turns out, we're just getting value extracted at this point. Value extract until there's nothing left.
Get a little regime change in our own country, please. And you know, with modern American nation building comes refugees. So who is gonna take in these Venezuelan refugees? Are we? Only the hot ones, apparently.
Nice.
The United States increasingly issuing work visas to OnlyFans models based on level of audience reach, according to the Financial Times.
Imagine being an immigrant from like some poor country, working your ass off to get a work visa in the United States, when all you had to do was bend over and show hole. Big booty Latinas to the front, tortas to the back. Anyway, nana boo-boo, my president can kidnap your president. We're invincible. We can regime change anyone we want. Who's next? Canada, Greenland, Cuba? Cuba's literacy rates are higher than ours. Maybe they should come liberate our dumbasses. Kids are swiping on books. But f it.
Nice! Oh my god, that doesn't surprise me. Why'd the book not work? Why is the book not speaking like a pirate, Grok? Why does this not work?
Don Road Doctrine, baby. Let's go. America is back. Dick Cheney is looking up at us smiling.
You just wait for Cuba. Cuba is a communist dictatorship. Their days are numbered.
Trump, listen to me. Wait, Trump doesn't watch this shit. Vance, listen to me. Get people like Lindsey Graham far away from anyone in power right now. This little Venezuela stunt was cute, but we are not touching any other country. We're not touching the Middle East, especially. No more Middle East. We all have Middle East fatigue. We are done. This whole thing really put into perspective just how weird it was that we were there like for 20 years. You mean we could have just been in and out in a few hours? I guess those poppy fields couldn't maintain themselves though. Anyway.
I mean, you have to understand, it's a weird one, right? Because of who Maduro is, because of connections he has, because of, I guess, his twin sister is also in power too, and I think she's the acting president right now. It's a very mixed reception. Like, on one hand, right, do we just go in and do we just, you know, resolve an issue? On the other hand, like, what is outside of our bounds, right? What stops this from happening with Greenland? What stops this from happening with Cuba? What stops this from happening with Yemen? What happens, you know, stopping, you know, going into Iran or maybe something like Syria or Sudan, right? This is precedent for future military action, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. So the world at this point, the world stage, whether you live in Germany, the UK, whether you live in Belgium, whether you live in Russia, whether you live in China, whatever, looks at the US and goes, are they going to pull the trigger, and are they just going to send military force to occupy countries? What is going to happen? What's going to happen in the Arctic Circle? The Arctic Circle is going to be a very interesting battleground, most like kind of like lines being drawn and stuff because of resources there, because of value extraction opportunities. So it's a slippery slope. And you know who I really feel bad for? I feel bad for the military. I feel bad for the people who are boots on the ground, who, and I'm sure she'll talk about this, the boat thing, right? I'm going to say alleged because I don't know the full details, the alleged war crimes. I feel bad for the Navy personnel. They're following, as far as I'm aware, what would be a legal and lawful order. Like, they have to follow it because, yes, you can get court-martialed. Yes, they can, in fact, just court-martial everybody. And it puts them in a very precarious situation. Now, who I won't give any credit to or any credence to is these fossils who sit the DOD. Oh, speaking of the
When this guy comes to the training grounds, everyone looks down on him. They know he's a complete scoundrel, a disgrace to his noble family, but he shocks everyone when he challenges his younger brother to a duel. Everyone is sure he won't make it out alive, because his brother is a genius who has mastered his skills his whole life. Our guy used to be a genius as a little boy as well, but he wasted all his talent by drinking and chasing.
Komm und tanz mit mir in dieser Nacht, denn wir ziehen für Mondstadt gar bald in die Schlacht. Morgen ruft das Schwert mich, vor morgen braucht's Mut, doch ist Freiheit ein heiliges Gut. Liebling, komm und tanz mit mir unter dem Mond. Nord und Süd für Löwenzahn, unser Kampf lohnt. Gegen Tyrannei und Macht, lass sie verwehen. Unser Blut neuen Frieden wir sehen. Als die Kinder des Windes wurde frei geboren, keinem Herrn sie zu Dienst wir erkoren. Wenn tyrannische Fesseln endlich ziehen, für die Freiheit und Recht kämpfen wir. Vorwärts! Vorwärts. Herrschaft kommt und geht mit den Fluten der Zeit. Ewig wird sein Mondstadt an Himmel sein. Liebling, komm und tanz mit mir den letzten Tanz, bis der Falke fliegt im Morgenglanz. Bis der Falke fliegt im Morgenglanz.
previously in the single-cell landscape, Altera's most sophisticated scanner detected a tiny anomaly deep below in the void. Okay, maybe it wasn't that tiny, but either way, we were lucky enough to be selected as expendable, meaning we had to go see what was going on and report.
When this guy comes to the training grounds, everyone looks down on him. They know he's a complete scoundrel, a disgrace to his noble family, but he shocks everyone when he challenges his younger brother to a duel. Everyone is sure he won't make it out alive, because his brother is a genius who has mastered his skills his whole life. Our guy used to be a genius as a little boy as well, but he wasted all his talent by drinking and chasing girls instead of training. Yet when the fight starts, he just laughs at his brother's pathetic moves. He blocks everything effortlessly and finishes him with a single strike. Everyone is shocked, unable to understand how it's possible. Maybe it was just luck. But when one of the strongest knights steps in next, the result is the same. Christian defeats him even faster and humiliates him in front of all the knights. That's when the knight commander loses her patience. She won't let this scoundrel mock her knights and is determined to show him his place. Like everyone else in his family, she considers him lowly trash destined to die drunk somewhere. So she rushes forward with a storm of strikes, but he blocks everything, shocking her and all the knights once again. And just as she gets distracted for a second, he headbutts her straight in the face. She's shocked when she sees her own blood and stops the fight, because she's thrilled to train him and turn him into an unstoppable warrior. You may wonder how this bastard became so strong in an instant. The thing is, it's not the same scoundrel anymore. A genius from the future ended up in his body. Chris is basically a jack of all trades, but a master of none. He's just an average guy with a talent that lets him learn anything in an instant. To make a name for himself, he ended up joining the hero's party. With his talent, he played a significant role in the party, handling all sorts of tasks, which earned him the nickname the Great Extra. But before he could truly blossom and harness his potential, he met a tragic end when the Age of Destruction began. It was during the time when the Demon King of Carnage, who hailed from the Magic Empire, started wreaking havoc in the Dominion of Light, and Hero Evan was not strong enough to stop him. As expected, they failed, and the Dominion of Light eventually fell into the hands of the Demon King of Carnage. Before dying, Hero Evan had one last wish. He wanted Chris to ascend to the role of hero. He wished he could turn back time and make this last wish turn into reality. However, Chris didn't share the same sentiments. After enduring so much hardship in life, this death felt more like mercy, a gateway to freedom from misery. Even if given a second chance, Chris would rather have been born into a rich family. That was his final thought before he perished and regressed back in time. He was reborn into the body of a young master of the Magic Empire, the very empire from which the Demon King of Carnage hailed from. For extra context, the Dominion of Light is the place where humans live, while the Magic Empire is the place where demons live, which are also called fiends. The place he was born into was the Dark Magic Clan, one of the 12 clans that support the Magic Empire, as his eerie name suggests. From what he understands, he had regressed 15 years back in time, 5 years before the beginning of the Age of Destruction. Now Chris is a rich brat, but the owner of the body he now possesses is far from pleasant. He's inhabiting the body of Christian Van Baron Kazar. According to Chris's past life memories, Christian inherits the noble Van as his middle name, meaning he's part of a branch family. The House of Count Kazar is a branch family of Baron County, also known as the Dark Magic Clan. Although the Kazar family is just a branch, it still holds a lot of power and influence due to its good standing within the Dark Magic Clan. Their wealth only amplifies their influence. To further emphasize the Kazar family's status, there's not a single fiend within the Magic Empire who doesn't recognize their influence. The Kazar family has 2 potential heirs, but the eldest son, Christian, is a troublemaker who always attracts problems. But the crucial thing to note here is that Christian was eventually murdered by his relatives. This is brutal news for Chris, who has just inherited Christian's body and is now about to die. All Chris ever wanted was to be born as the son of a regular rich family with no unnecessary drama. But beating himself up over his bad luck won't do him any good, so he needs to think hard about what to do to avoid dying. He still has 2 years before Christian dies. It's important to note that he was eliminated within the House of Count Kazar, a family that places great importance on honor. This likely means Christian was an absolute good-for-nothing, and thus murdered by his own family in order to avoid any damage to the family's name. So, Chris hopes that if he becomes a nice person and keeps a low profile, he might dodge that death bullet. Now that the issue of dying has been dealt with, Chris starts thinking about living a comfortable life with all the money he has. But his daydreams soon hit a snag when he remembers the Age of Destruction that will start in the future. The Demon King of Carnage started the war to sacrifice humanity and complete Ragnarok. By the time anyone realized this, it was was already too late,
Integrating
and both
new
the Dominion of
PDA
Light
data.
and the Magic Empire met their tragic ends because of Demon King's selfish desire. If Chris truly wants to survive, he'll have to figure out a way to stop the coming apocalypse. The Demon King of Carnage is powerful on his own, but he also has an entire army of loyal fiends from the Magic Empire. The only way Chris can stop all this madness is to become more powerful than the Demon King of Carnage. The only way to do that is to become the Demon Emperor himself and sit at the pinnacle of the Magic Empire. He has 5 years before the Age of Destruction begins, which is enough time to come up with a plan. If he succeeds, there's no doubt that the entire Magic Empire will belong to him. Later, we see Christian getting scolded by his father for leaving his room, despite being grounded. The head of the house isn't stomaching the fact that Chris dared to show his filthy mug without properly repenting for the embarrassing incident he caused not long ago. Count Khazar gives him one last warning, making it clear that his next act of negligence will be his last, once his head is chopped off his body. The menacing, almost suffocating aura of Count Khazar is so intimidating that Chris is literally shuddering instinctively. Eventually, he sincerely apologizes for all the wrongdoings he has committed until now. Chris is trying to mend his relationship with Count Khazar because he wants to get rid of the bad image everyone holds of Christian. This is the only way he can move forward with his plans. He continues his apologies, hoping to sway the Count's heart, but it looks like a few words of apology aren't cutting it. The Count has no intention of believing his son's words after all the trouble he has caused. Meanwhile, Chris is trying to figure out what in the hell this bastard Christian pulled off to make the Count lose all trust in him. There are so many horror stories Chris has heard about Christian that he isn't even sure which one is the most recent. So, he reminds his father that he lost a portion of his memories a few days ago. Because of that, he doesn't even remember what he did that made his father lose all trust in him. He goes on to say that, in an effort to remember, he reflected on his past actions, only to realize how awful he had been all this time. He completely owns up to the downfall he caused to his father's reputation. But even with all of this, the Count is still unwilling to believe him. After all, he has heard these excuses countless times before. Seeing no other way to convince his father, Chris decides to go extreme. He sincerely requests to be sent into the punishment cave, offering to spend up to a month there to prove that he has truly changed. Here's a quick explanation of the punishment cave. Apparently, it's a place made to imprison high-status fiends. There's no light, and all 5 of the captive's senses are blocked. It only takes a few days before a captive's mind is completely broken, driving them into madness. With that in mind, Count Khazar doubts Chris would even last a few hours, let alone an entire month. Chris has already considered all possibilities, but this is the only way left to earn his father's trust, so he is willing to take on the challenge. Count Khazar, having seen Christian make countless big promises before, is hesitant. Every time it ended in disappointment, but this time, he's willing to play along and give him one last chance. However, he makes one thing abundantly clear. If Chris fails to prove he's a different person after spending an entire month there, he will be banished from the clan. Chris already knows that being banished is basically a death sentence. There are countless enemies Christian has made in his life, and the moment he loses the protection of the clan, they will all come for his life. Still, my guy accepts the challenge. However, if he succeeds, he wants his father to grant him one favor. Count Khazar scoffs at Chris's confidence but agrees nonetheless, so long as he truly changes for the better, though he highly doubts that's even remotely possible. Later, as Chris sits in his lavish room, a fiend arrives to inform him that the punishment cave has been prepared. This guy's name is Cox, a half-vampire and the butler of the house of Count Khazar. Chris acknowledges his words, and after a while he begins making his way there, carrying a luggage bag on his shoulders. As he walks through the corridors, every servant and household member whispers among themselves. They're all convinced this good-for-nothing must be plotting something again. They recall the recent trouble he caused, insulting the young lady of the Poison Magic clan. The mess was so bad that Count Khazar had to personally bow his head and apologize to the Poison Magic clan. Now it makes sense why the Count was so furious and dismissive of Christian earlier. The humiliation must have been so bad that the man probably wanted to die from embarrassment. Some people in the background even start betting that Christian won't last more than 2 days in the punishment cave. But my guy just smirks in confidence because he knows he's about to subvert their expectations. Meanwhile, his little brother watches from the sidelines, keeping a close eye on him. A while later, they finally arrive at the punishment cave. To emphasize just how dangerous and please don't come closer this place is, 2 Death Knights stand as guards at the entrance. They might look intimidating, but there's no one stopping Chris from entering. However, just as he's about to enter, his little brother calls out from behind. Here is a quick introduction to this puny punk. As you already know, he is Christian's biological younger brother and a model student, Thurn Van Boren Khazar. The rest of the introduction can wait because, out of nowhere, this little guy pulls a fast one on his older brother, stopping the sharp tip of his sword just before Chris's eyes. While our boy doesn't react outwardly, his soul inside him has literally died of a heart attack at the sight of that attack coming. Still, Chris keeps his composure and questions his little brother, asking what he's doing here. It turns out Thurn is just here to remind his older brother how pathetic he is. He warns him that if he tarnishes the family name any further, he might as well be dead. Seeing this feisty little punk, Chris is pretty sure Thurn was the one responsible for Christian's death in his previous life. Chris has actually met Thurn before during the Age of Destruction. He was a fiend famous for curse magic. Anyway, Chris reacts to his little brother with a stern glare. Of course, those intense glares make Thurn shudder, while Chris just keeps his tough guy act and enters the cave, shutting the door behind him. This display of attitude leaves Thurn absolutely enraged, as he's not used to seeing this side of his older brother. Cutting back to Chris, he walks through the dark cave, unable to see or hear anything. There's only the faintest sensation left around his fingertips. Thinking about it, this sensation seems deliberately left there so that prisoners can feel the objects they bring inside. Otherwise, they might starve to death if they can't fumble through their supplies. Still, an ordinary person would quickly feel mentally drained in such a place. But this doesn't affect Chris. After all, he's experienced worse during his time as a treasure hunter. To be honest, having his senses cut off is exactly how he wanted it. This way, he can focus inward and look inside himself. It's the only way he'll be able to fix this wreck of a body. Sure, it will take time and a whole lot of luck, but with the medical skills he learned back when they called him the Divine Hand, plus the bone compression art he modified, he is sure that he can pull this off. And being the rich guy he is now, he has access to magic stones with various properties, so fixing his body in this place won't be a problem at all. He honestly thought he wouldn't be able to get his hands on magic stones since they're so expensive, but it looks like this is one of the perks of being rich. In his previous life, Hero Evan and he had to struggle just to obtain them. His first step will be to use a white magic stone, which will purify any toxins in his body. It might be a boring process, but it's an essential stage. He'll need to meticulously clean the toxin buildup across his body with white mana. Even the smallest mistake would cause immense pain, but for Chris, it's a walk in the park. He can handle it just fine without even putting much effort into it. Meanwhile, back with Count Khazar, he asks his butler about Christian. The butler reveals that Christian obediently entered the punishment cave. He's sure that Christian is going to be so wrecked that he won't even have the strength to call for help. These unsettling words only serve to make Count Khazar even more worried. He starts questioning himself, wondering if it was the right decision to let him go inside. Count reflects on how Christian had such a promising future as a child, so he is unsure how he could have broken apart so suddenly. For a moment, he even starts to question if Christian's exceptional talents went to his head. Regardless of the reason behind his downfall, the Count would rather see Christian die crippled than live miserably. As much as he wants to place faith in Christian's words, he just can't bring himself to do it. After all, this isn't the first time his son has tricked him with smooth talk. Count then questions his butler, asking if he noticed Christian carrying anything when he entered the cave. The butler hesitates to reveal anything, but under Count Khazar's scrutiny, he's forced to open his mouth. He reveals that Christian carried magic stones with him into the cave. Among them were dreamstones, which can make anyone hallucinate. The butler fears that since they don't know what exactly Christian is up to, they should open the cave immediately. But Count Khazar responds sternly with a firm no. Even if Christian is plotting something shady, it's all the more reason to let him die there miserably. A month passes, and Count Khazar finds himself standing right outside the cave's entrance. Before Chris even makes an appearance, the Count has already convinced himself that his son is as good as wrecked by now. But of course his expectations are completely subverted when he sees Christian emerging from the cave, with a broad smile on his face. As surprising as it is, there's no denying that Christian has fulfilled his promise by returning as a completely different person. The Count can't help but notice the brightness in his son's eyes, something he hasn't seen since Christian was a child. Now, this change might be admirable, but Count Khazar isn't about to loosen up immediately. He's still firm in his belief that this small achievement isn't enough to convince him that his son has truly changed. However, Christian doesn't back down. He makes it clear that he'll keep working even harder if that's what it takes. Christian is certain his father believes he barely endured the cave, but that's far from the truth. In fact, Christian was so busy training that he didn't even have time to get bored. First off, he optimized his body to master swordplay. Thanks to the white mana stone, he never ran out of juice. But the real game changer was the Dreamstone. The butler had tried to stop him from bringing a narcotic mana stone into the cave, but Christian was glad he had stubbornly brought them anyway. The hallucinations caused by the Dreamstone drastically reduced the time it took for his metamorphosis. On top of that, he created 2 cores within himself. Christian couldn't help but feel proud of everything he achieved in that deadly cave. He was convinced he was a genius. After all, having 2 cores wasn't something you came across every day. Because of this, he hid his light core inside his darkness core. If anyone discovered this, their reaction would be nothing short of explosive. But his luck didn't stop there. He sensed that someone in the cave was hoping he would break down under the hallucinations, but Christian used that as a catalyst to push himself even further. Back in the present, Christian wants to cash in on the favor his father promised him. He requests permission to use the Black Swamp Knights training grounds. Of course, Count Khazar's face immediately twists with annoyance at such a bold and reckless request. As far as the Count is concerned, a good-for-nothing like Christian has no business being there. After all, the Black Swamp Knights are one of the 3 orders of knights that support the Dark Magic clan, and only the most elite knights are allowed to display their skills there. But Christian stands firm. He's not asking to join their order, just to borrow their training grounds. He believes that watching the bravery of the Black Swamp Knights will have a positive influence on him. After a brief pause, Count Khazar agrees, though he issues a stern warning. Don't disgrace yourself in front of the knights, or it will end with your death. Christian acknowledges the warning, and before his father can leave, he asks for another favor. Later, Christian arrives at the training grounds. As he's minding his business, some knights in the background start murmuring among themselves, recognizing him as the good-for-nothing young master. The knights don't even try to hide the fact that they're bad-mouthing the Count's son, which speaks volumes about the state of the magic empire. Here, strength matters more than social status. There's another reason Christian wanted to come to the Black Swamp Knights training grounds. He apparently wants access to enter the library. His father had told him that he could only enter the library once he obtained Deputy Commander Mellon's letter of recommendation. Only then would Count Khazar grant him the key. You see, the library houses all the dark magic grimoires of the Khazar house, and to learn dark magic, Chris must gain access. While Chris doesn't object to the condition, he's puzzled as to why it's even necessary since he's an important member of the clan. His father reminds him of the time Christian tried to sell the advanced grimoires on the black market. Even Chris has started to question the kind of life Christian led back then. The title, Good for Nothing, is certainly fitting. Now, Chris's top priority is to get the Deputy Commander's recommendation. Among the knights standing around, Chris's little brother is present too. He doesn't waste a second before throwing a barrage of colorful remarks at his older brother. Of course, Christian finds it a drag that he has to deal with this brat once again. But as he thinks it over, a smile forms on his face. This might actually be a good opportunity for him. Thurn walks up to his older brother, orders him to turn around and never return. He insists that Christian should not throw away the life he narrowly saved in the punishment cave. But Chris remains as sassy as ever, making the brat shudder once again by revealing that it was their father who gave him permission to enter the training grounds. At that moment, another prominent figure walks into the scene. This woman's glare could cut through steel, and it's clear she can't stomach Christian's presence here. Doesn't matter even if the Count gave him permission. For the record, this intimidating lady is Deputy Commander Mellon. Her presence alone fills the air with 4-star dark energy, a clear attempt to scare Chris into running away like a sobbing child. But as we know, this is far from enough to intimidate our boy. The onlookers notice how Christian is completely unshaken by her dark energy, and even she tenses up upon realizing how unhinged he seems in the face of it. Christian greets her calmly and initiates the conversation. He acknowledges the wrongdoings of his past and the lack of trust people have in him, but he's ready to prove that he's qualified to use the training grounds. Christian proposes that he will fight against one of the fiends present here and prove himself by winning. Naturally, Deputy Commander Mellon dismisses his suggestion as nothing more than a joke. But Christian isn't here to joke around. In a calm tone, he requests that she refrain from using her dark energy during their interaction. He humbly asks for an unarmed duel, as his capacity for dark energy is currently not what it should be due to his debauched lifestyle. Mellon considers his request. Even if this is a duel, she can't afford to let the heir get hurt. So she asks him once again if he truly has what it takes to engage in an unarmed duel. Christian remains confident and states that he would like to choose his opponent, none other than his brat of a little brother, Thurn. This infuriates Thurn, who's absolutely livid at being challenged by his good-for-nothing brother. Even Mellon thinks Christian is putting his hands into a lion's maw. She warns him to choose his opponent more wisely, considering Thurn is already at 2-star level. For context, 2-star is a level that few 13-year-olds can ascend to. If you don't have the raw talent for it, it doesn't matter if you're 13 or 23. You won't even scratch the surface of this level, let alone ascend to it. But as we already know, Christian is no pushover either. He firmly declares that he wants to fight someone stronger than him, because this is the only way he can prove himself. Fighting Thurn, he believes, is the optimal choice. However, there's a catch. If Thurn is too scared to fight his own brother, it changes the whole dynamic of the duel. Naturally, Thurn falls for the bait and accepts the duel. Soon, the two face off in the center of the training grounds. The other fiends circle around them, eagerly waiting for Thurn to win, and for Christian to taste the bitter sting of defeat. defeat. But before the duel begins, Christian wants to know how the winner will be decided. He suggests that they fight until one of them surrenders. Melon, clearly displeased with Christian, proposes instead that they continue until one side is completely incapacitated. This way, she believes Thurn will have the chance to seriously cripple his brother, as he wouldn't have the option to surrender. My guy, however, is more worried about his opponent than himself. He doesn't want to seriously beat his little brother. Of course, these jabs rile Thurn up even further, and he's more enraged than ever, itching to show his older brother what's what. Chris seizes the opportunity and makes his first move by slapping the living shit out of his brother. The slap is humiliating and uncalled for, but the duel has already started, so it's all fair game. Thurn tries to slap back, but Christian easily dodges it by simply ducking backward. If Chris is being honest, this is practically an unfair fight with all the odds stacked against him. As a fiend who hasn't even reached 1 star yet, he stands no chance against someone with dark energy. However, in a barehanded duel, things are a little different. Thurn's clumsy moves give Chris the perfect opportunity to strike back, and Chris delivers a gut-wrenching knee smash right into Thurn's stomach. The reason Chris is prevailing in this barehanded fight is the experience he's accumulated from countless battles in his past life. Moreover, if he only counts the dominion of light powers achieved in the punishment cave, he's already at 3-star level. So basically, his brat of a brother doesn't stand a chance. Thurn is looking worse for wear after taking such a beating, and even the onlookers are in absolute awe. Meanwhile, Chris starts throwing jabs to further annoy his little brother. It looks like his silly remarks are doing the trick. Internally, he is having an absolute blast watching this brat struggle. Thurn, on the other hand, is certain that Christian must be using some kind of trick. Christian lets him know there are no tricks at play. It's simply that Thurn is weak sauce. That remark hits hard and Thurn feels the sting. While Chris continues his goofy teasing, Thurn can't take it anymore. He balls up his fist, dark energy exuding from him ominously, and throws a punch. Chris easily avoids the direct hit, but Thurn continues his relentless barrage of punches, none of which even scratch Chris. Eventually, Chris parries one of the punches, and after canceling out his little brother's dark energy, he lands a brutal hit on him. That one punch is enough to make Thurn cough up blood before collapsing to the ground. The spectators burst into murmurs and gossip, believing that Thurn must have let his guard down, or simply didn't want to hurt his trash of a brother. After all, Thurn getting knocked out by his good-for-nothing older brother doesn't make sense. But Deputy Commander Mellon knows exactly what just happened, and it's causing her to go absolutely bonkers with astonishment. Chris, on the other hand, wants Mellon to confirm if he's proven himself, or if there's still something left to do. Mellon, still stunned, confirms that he has indeed proven himself. This confirmation sounds like music to Christian's ears, and now he's ready to set his next plan into motion. Later, sitting in his room, Chris reflects on how he's finally reached 1 star in dark magic. Since he's still not fully accustomed to handling dark energy, and there was a lot of residue left over by Christian, it took longer than expected. As for wielding the power of light at the same time, he'll need to raise his level further before that's possible. Suddenly, his assigned maid, Marie, appears upon his call. She's actually a high-level evil spirit, a banshee. Chris can't help but feel a little spooked to see that they're using a spirit as his maid. He's so creeped out that he even thinks about requesting the Count to replace her. Anyhow, he orders her to fetch some juice, planning to drink it before he starts his training. Marie acknowledges his orders but wants to confirm if she should prepare the juice with human blood, since blood juice tastes far better than anything else. She continues to insist on the blood juice, while Christian, totally disturbed by her morbid suggestions, just wants strawberry juice, nothing more. A while later, as Christian is about to leave to train, the butler calls out to him from behind, suggesting he reconsider going. The butler expresses concern that Christian has been pushing himself too hard lately. He is clearly proud and pleased to see how diligent and sincere the young master has been, even if everyone else deemed him good for nothing. He's always believed in Christian. Christian, however, can see through this bastard's hypocrisy. He shoots the butler a deadly glare, not wanting any validation from a lowly servant. The poor butler quickly apologizes, as he didn't mean to overstep his boundaries. With those words, the poor guy leaves, not before wishing Christian a good training session. Chris, however, feels something suspicious about this guy, but he can't quite place his finger on what's wrong. Later, as Chris walks through the grounds, he notices how the behavior and the look in the eyes of the people around him have become softer and more docile towards him. He sees this as a great opportunity to win them over, little by little. After all, when the iron is hot, why not strike? After putting his bag down, he begins swinging his sword. A fiend takes notice of this and promptly goes to Deputy Commander Mellon to report it. He reports that young Master Christian has shown up at the training grounds again today. Hearing this, Deputy Commander Mellon grows serious, her curiosity piqued by Christian's actions. She can't ignore how impressive his movements were during his duel with Thurn, refined and precise. She's eager to find out what Christian is really plotting. What has her on the edge of her seat is the fact that Christian was able to dispel his brother's dark energy at the perfect moment. This revelation explains how he had control of the battle from the very start. If that's the case, he might even have the talent to surpass Lord Eshid de Baron, who is the direct heir of the main family. But then again, Christian is just a bastard who's already lost his dark energy due to his debauched lifestyle. There's no way he can close the enormous power gap between himself and Lord Eshid de Baron. Melon steps outside, pretending she's unaware of Christian's presence. When she actually steps out, she notices that Christian has dropped his opponent, Cannon. The onlookers are in awe that he defeated one of their own who is a 1-star fiend. It's unfathomable that this bastard has reached 1 star. Even Melon can't help but stare in awe. Christian, on the other hand, feels disappointed by how weak these highly regarded Black Swamp Knights are. No one seems to pose a real challenge to him. He wonders if anyone here has what it takes to be a true fighter. Naturally, the fiends who hear Christian's jab grow visibly agitated, seeing how he's throwing shade at their ranks. One of the big fiends, named Torin, steps forward to challenge Christian. Seeing this, Chris merely gestures for the big bastard to come forward. He's absolutely thrilled that these clowns are falling right into his traps. Torin, eager for the fight, swings his sword, and they engage in a fierce back and forth. As they exchange blows, Chris reflects on how he never expected them to obediently teach him their knight's secret techniques. He's taking notes on every movement his opponent makes, mapping out the techniques in his mind. It doesn't take long before he realizes that the swordsmanship technique Torin is using is known as mud swordsmanship, a highly rumored style. After noting the technique, he decides to try it out for himself. The moment he does, he lands a precise strike right across Torin's face. With just that much, the once mighty Torin is kissing the ground. As usual, the other fiends witnessing this fight are in utter awe, including Deputy Commander Melon. She now fully realizes that Christian's previous victory against Thurn was no fluke. Once again, my guy expresses his disappointment. Before all this, he used to hold these knights in high regard, but now they've turned out to be nothing more than punching bags. He then directly throws shade at Deputy Commander Melon for nurturing such weak and pathetic warriors. The fiends on the sidelines know full well that Christian should not be messing with Deputy Commander Melon, and Melon thinks the same. She's sure that Christian's unexpected victories are getting to his head, but my guy is ready to prove his prowess, and to do that, he directly challenges her. Of course, the lady takes the bait. In a fit of rage, she swings her sword so hard that the sheer pressure obliterates the ground beneath them. By now, she is absolutely losing it, her rage bubbling up after the constant humiliation Christian has caused her. This display of power is meant to show that she could take him down in seconds if she had to. My guy doesn't shy away from admitting that she indeed has the upper hand with her full strength, but he argues that it's not fair. According to the rules, the use of dark energy is only allowed against opponents up to 1-star level, and since he is only 1-star level, she can't possibly use dark magic against him. She is only allowed to use dark energy. He claims it's only fair they fight with wooden swords. Melon agrees to his suggestion. Even with this handicap, she's sure she can obliterate his legs with just a wooden sword. No need to waste any time with jibber-jabber. Let the battle begin. Deputy Commander Melon takes the initiative, throwing her sword down at Christian. He blocks her direct attack with his own sword, and they engage in a fierce exchange of blows. Their movements are so fast that the onlookers can barely follow. What's even more mind-boggling is that Christian is holding his own against her. Even Melon herself is starting to get agitated, realizing that no attacks are landing on him. Even though he's just a weakling and shouldn't stand a chance against her, the situation is eerily similar to the previous fights where his opponents failed to land a single blow on him. Seeing the distress on her face, Chris can't help but throw jabs at her, which only further irritates her. She raises her sword, charging it with dark energy, and brings it crashing down. But Christian dodges it with ease, charging at her and landing a hard head smash straight to her face. The impact causes her nose to burst. This strike was a calculated risk from our boy's side. He realized that as long as Melon's dark magic was bound, she wouldn't be able to block such an opening with just physical strength alone. His hunch was right on the money. If Melon were a fiend who focused solely on the sword, that wouldn't have worked. Instead of breaking into a cold sweat after having her blood spilled, Melon bursts into hearty laughter. She finds it kind of adorable and funny because she never expected him to headbutt her. Finally, she admits that she was wrong to look down on him, and promises to personally give him the extra attention he deserves to help increase his growth. But then, Christian reveals something shocking. When he headbutted her, he scratched her neck. If his nails had been laced with poison, she would have been a goner by now. Melon sincerely accepts her defeat and is ready to grant him whatever wish he requires. However, she wants another duel with him. Chris has no problem with a rematch, but he makes a request in return. Melon agrees without hesitation. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Chris asks if she can kneel before him. It's a shocking request. For Melon, this is an impossible ask. Her loyalty lies with the main family of the Dark Magic clan, House Baron. Chris acknowledges what she's implying but assures her it won't matter when he ascends as his little brother, who despises him more than anyone in the house. Second is Cox, their butler, who isn't a descendant of the clan but has free access to the punishment cave. Fiends hold the powerful people in higher regard than those of who are of higher social status, so it doesn't make sense for Cox to be circling around a guy like him who is just a weak sauce. It's possible there's a third party behind Cox's actions, but whoever it is wants to bring Christian down. What's most notable, though, is that Cox gave him a dreamstone before he headed to the punishment cave, which is effectively a death sentence. To catch the rats, Chris decides to play the role of the bastard his enemies want him to be. If they see him running his life into the ground, they'll likely get hopeful, making it easier for him to spot who's behind the scheme. He abruptly stops in the middle of his training, throwing a tantrum about how difficult everything is. He quits the drills for the day, deciding to rest. His sudden change catches the others off guard, just as he expected. Later, at the dining table with his father, Chris throws a scene. His father, boiling with fury, feels like a fool for ever thinking his son could redeem himself. In immense disappointment, he leaves the table. As Chris watches the Count sulk, he feels a twinge of sadness, but he knows it's for the greater good of the family. He works hard to spread rumors that he's returned to his old and rebellious ways, like bullying maids while they clean, wasting money like it's water. But when he wants to drink alcohol, his personal maid always makes wine with no trace of alcohol. Chris tries to get her to make real alcoholic drinks because this is part of his plan to catch a rat. He's hoping whoever is behind the plot will think he's back to being the wasteful bastard they want him to be. He then shows his mastery of the binding seal spell that catches even his loyal maid off guard. She is left bewildered to see that he has already mastered the spell, but Chris wastes no time in bragging about his genius, something he's been claiming all along. He explains that while all the time he spent causing trouble, he was also secretly studying in order to master multiple spells. Before he can celebrate, his little brother Thurn arrives in his room unannounced. Seeing this, Christian quickly flips his mental switch and instantly transforms from the sober genius into a drunken, degenerate bastard, playing the role of a loser. Thurn's eyes narrow with anger as he is finally convinced that nothing has changed about his bozo brother. This angry and intense reaction of Thurn confirms to Chris that he is not involved in any of the schemes against him. Since Thurn is clean, he decides to share a part of his secret with him, revealing that there's a rat in the house, a traitor who wishes to see his downfall. Chris plans to play the part of the reckless fool for now, pretending to be exactly what his enemies want him to be, so they can be easily identified. To further convince his brother, he shows him the wine he's been drinking, letting Thurn smell it to show that it's fake, meant only to maintain his facade. While Chris is still unsure who the rat is, he's certain he's getting closer to luring them out. Just then, a servant rushes in after hearing the sound of breaking glass. Christian immediately returns to his drunken persona, demanding the servant tell the butler that the wine he sent is the wrong one, and to bring him the proper bottle. The servant apologizes profusely before informing Chris that Cox is currently busy. Chris, still acting like a sailor after too many drinks, decides to pay the butler a personal visit. His brother, in the background, can only watch in disbelief seeing how realistically this bastard is performing the role of drunkard bozo. When Christian finally meets Cox, he deliberately flips the bottle of wine over the butler's head, causing it to spill all over him. He accuses him of trying to play dirty tricks by sending him the wrong wine. Cox apologizes and insists that the proper wine will be brought immediately. Chris, however, insists that he fetch it himself. Cox tries to remain calm while explaining that he's dealing with something more pressing, and suggests the wine can be delivered later. But Christian continues to push, trying to get a rise out of Cox. Eventually, Cox leaves to retrieve the wine. Chris is astounded by this bastard's patience. Though Cox can mask his emotions, Chris can feel the hostility radiating from him. Once Chris is alone, he begins to go through the documents the butler had been preparing. As he scans the papers, a broad smile spreads across his face when he notices that Butler had been doing embezzlement of funds. If Cox is truly a rat, it's natural that he has tampered with the finances, but there's no clear evidence yet to confirm that he is indeed the rat. Soon enough, Cox returns with the correct wine. Christian, still playing his role, accepts the bottle and wonders if the butler is angry with him for his impudent behavior. The butler, however, appears to be grateful for the opportunity to serve his young master. Before he leaves, Cox relays a message that there are Christian's friends who want to meet him at their usual hideout. Of course, Chris has no idea who these friends actually are. Cox warns him to avoid them, claiming they are trouble. But this only intrigues Chris more, inciting him to meet these mysterious individuals. At the hideout, we are greeted by a lavish spread of food. As Chris sits there, his attention is immediately drawn to the terrified maid serving drinks. He can't help but comment on how these pigs have made the poor girl pour drinks for their fat asses. As she serves him a glass, he notices something off about it. Without hesitation, he throws the wine in the face of the fatty sitting at the table. He does not beat around the bush before accusing them of spiking his drink with something shady. Before things can escalate further, he uses dark magic to knock the maid unconscious, not wanting to traumatize her with the scene that is about to unfold. The group is stunned to see him use dark magic. surprised that Christian has already learned such powerful techniques. But before they can react, my guy slams both of the culprits onto the table, causing blood to splatter. The fatty demands to know why he was attacked. Chris, in response, pulls out a dagger, because he won't tolerate any pretenses from him. After some interrogation, the skinny man finally confesses that they were only following orders from someone who had blackmailed them with drugs he and his friend smuggled. They had been ordered to frame Christian for a murder they intended to commit on the maid. Chris presses them for the identity of the mastermind. The skinny guy hesitates, but in order to make him speak, my guy lets this bastard know who is calling the shots here. Reluctantly, the skinny bastard reveals the truth. Cox is the one behind the plot. With everything exposed, the both guys beg for their lives, promising to do whatever Christian commands. Christian, after a brief moment of contemplation, agrees to spare them on the condition that they follow his orders without question. Just in case, he makes them promise this twice, and once they promise, he uses his binding spell over them. The next day, Cox rushes to Count Khazar to report that Christian has committed murder. He claims that Christian, drunk, killed the servant girl who had been serving his drinks and dumped her body into the river. Hearing this, the Count immediately orders that Christian be brought before the Fiend Court to answer for his actions. At the court, Christian immediately pleads his innocence. The Count, however, is not convinced and insists that the testimonies of witnesses will prove his guilt. Christian calmly declares that the murder never happened, and therefore, the witnesses must be mistaken. To prove his point, Christian points to the maid, who, to everyone's shock, walks into the courtroom perfectly alive and well. The two conspirators begins to panic when they realize that they are about to get screwed. The maid reveals that Christian actually helped her by escorting her home and even giving her money to help pay her rent. As far as she's concerned, it was the two men standing there who tried to kill her. The court erupts in shock, and the two culprits are exposed for their treachery. To hammer the final nail in the coffin, my guy uses his magic mojo and makes his two friends talk like the parrots they are under his command. They admit to giving a false report about Christian taking the life of a young girl. Furthermore, they were ordered by Butler Cox to frame the young master for this murder. Unsurprisingly, the butler begins to panic and starts defending himself as if his life depends on it, which, well, it does. Chris already knew this jackass would react exactly like this, so he had already prepared for it. He addresses his father and requests to borrow his authority for a while because he has a direct question he wants to ask Butler Cox. He promises that this one question alone will separate the milk from the water. His father agrees and promptly gives Cox the opportunity to defend himself. So Cox is advised to stand in the defendant's stand. Before Chris can ascend to jury's stand, his father lets him know that if he abuses his authority, he will be stripped off it immediately. Once Chris ascends to the judge's stand, he proceeds to question Cox with the authority he has been granted. First of all, he wants defendant Cox to swear that he will speak nothing but the truth. Cox, of course, swears right away, not that he has a choice. But as soon as Cox swears twice, my guy uses his binding seal magic on him. Even the people in the courtroom can't help but notice. Their reaction is one of awe, because there is no way in hell a mere brat should be able to wield 4-star dark magic. Before proceeding further, we learn a little about this binding seal. Basically, my guy modified the binding seal so it could be used even with a lower star rank. However, it has additional conditions. Chris needs the target to swear twice. Now it makes sense why he made Cox swear twice, and also why he made those two goons promise twice before hijacking their brains. Now that the binding seal is a success, my guy questions this shithead about why he hired those two to slander his name. The binding seal begins consuming Cox's mind when he tries to avoid answering. He manages to endure the pain for a bit, but eventually he reveals that he received orders from someone. The man who gave him the order also threatened him about the corruption he had been involved in with the finances, so Cox had no choice but to comply. Before making Cox admit anything further, my guy wants him to confirm whether he is talking about the embezzlement he has been committing behind the Count's back. After confirming this little fact, Chris proceeds further with the trial, asking about the person who gave him the order. When Cox refuses to speak, the pain intensifies, forcing him to utter the name Sir Eshid. This news drops like a nuke on everyone when they realize that it was the second son of the Dark Magic clan, Sir Eshid de Baron, who was pulling the strings. Cox further reveals that now that he has spilled everything, he will be killed by Eshid. But before Sir Eshid can pose any threat to Cox's life, my guy severs this traitor's head right in front of Count Khazar. Before anyone can start yapping about his bold move, Chris clarifies that he punished the sinner under the authority he borrowed from the Count. The Count then questions Christian about why he deemed Cox deserving of a death sentence. Well, Chris's reason is simple. Even if this bastard were left alive, the Main family would likely fabricate evidence and cover up the incident. And getting on the Main family's bad side is the last thing they can afford. Furthermore, this incident has revealed to everyone how Eshid tried to sabotage him. In the next moment, Count Khazar conjures a portal, and both father and son step into the secret training grounds to have a private chat. After all, there were just too many people in the courtroom. From what the Count understands, the only reason Eshid is causing trouble is because of the succession conflict. The Count knows very well that one family's power and authority are directly tied to the successor they support, so it's only natural for Eshid to feel threatened. However, with things as they stand now, the Count wants to support the first young lady since the first young lord is not an option. But this is then Chris puts himself up as the next option. He wants to volunteer to become the next successor. It goes without saying that the Count is dismissive of the idea. It's impossible. But Christian reminds his father that anyone from a branch family can be recognized as a potential successor if they possess the necessary ability. His father, however, believes that this is only true on paper. Something like this happening in their clan is unprecedented. That's when Chris reminds his father that Eshid sees him as a potential rival, which is the only reason he wanted to eliminate him. The Count does acknowledge that Christian might have been more talented than Eshid during childhood, but as of now, Eshid is far ahead. Chris, however, believes that he has already started catching up, and to speed up his growth even further, he wants his father to use his authority to recommend him for the Sacred Dark Rite, which is set to take place 2 months from now. The Count reminds him that one must be at least a 2-star to even consider participating in the rite. Well, that's the least of Christian's concerns. He promises to reach 2-star within the next 2 months, so he hopes his father will grant him this favor. Well, looks like the Count has no choice but to heed the young master's command. Later, we see servants murmuring among themselves about how much our boy has changed. Rumors are spreading that the Count has been personally training him these days. The training Christian is going through is said to be so tough that even senior knights can barely endure it. We then promptly cut to our boy, who is cutting down stuff with the new sword techniques he has learned. Seeing his progress, even the Count is astonished at how fast Christian is adapting, like he's learning in days. The Count is further shocked when he sees Christian pull off another technique against a training dummy, slicing it limb from limb. Apparently, Chris mixed the mud swordsmanship with the black scythe sword energy, creating an ultimate technique capable of cutting clean through, something mud swordsmanship alone couldn't achieve. Of course, the Count's soul practically leaves his body upon seeing such prowess. Normally, using 2 techniques at the same time would make it difficult to cast curses, but Chris shrugs it off as super easy. In fact, it's barely even an inconvenience for him. 15 days pass, and we see our boy totally drained on the ground. While this dude can pull off complex swordsmanship mojo, he can't handle the strain of cardio after running. What's worse, there's no way to cheat his way out of it since stamina accumulates gradually. As he catches his breath, Deputy Commander Mellon pops up out of nowhere. She's just here to give him a soft reminder about the looming duel, which is just around the corner. She's eagerly anticipating the fateful day when they will exchange blows again. While he's trying his best to improve, she believes it's still not enough to close the power gap between them. Thus, his dream of making her kneel before him is just a thought that exists in his head. But Chris is confident, determined to make this thought a reality. She likes his warrior spirit, so before leaving, she commends him for it and hopes to see him bring out the best version of himself, just so he can entertain her enough. For context, Mellon is currently an upper 4-star. Within a single stage, there are 3 tiers: lower, middle, and upper. Even though Christian is an upper 1-star, he's still way below her level, but it looks like our bro already has a perfect plan to overcome this gap. After all, he's a rich brat now, and he plans to leverage that to his advantage. Later, he meets his evil spirit maid, Marie, who looks drop-dead gorgeous. Since this is their first outing together, she made sure to dress properly. It almost seems like she's turning this into a date. Christian, of course, denies inviting her along. He had only told her to prepare his bags, and that's it. But the way Marie looks so obsessive, it doesn't seem like the poor guy can catch a break. He even asked his father if he could lay off this obsessive, love-struck evil spirit and get an attendant who's human. But his father sadly reminded him of the master-servant contract Christian has with Marie. After all, a high-ranked banshee can't be managed without a contract. What's worse is that if he wants to cancel this contract, he's required to have a deep kiss with Marie. Back to the present, Christian once again reminds Marie that she can't come, as he's headed to a place where they'll encounter a lot of people. He worries that she might end up hurting people with her spiritual energy, which he doesn't like. Of course, Marie starts acting like a helpless, cute, snobbing puppy. After further guilt-tripping him about how she hasn't seen the outside world in decades, she finally charms her way into convincing him. While Christian reluctantly gives her permission to tag along, he still wants her to stay away from other people. The girl literally flips from a sobbing mess to a charming pretty lady upon getting permission. As she starts following him, she's quite curious about the purpose of this outing, to which he says that he wants to rack up some profits. Marie quickly showers him with the gold coins he told her to carry, reminding him that he already has plenty of money, so why does he need more? First of all, he makes it clear that this money isn't enough, And secondly, he wants her to put the damn money back. Anyhow, she continues to guess what he might be after, perhaps more gold or land ownership. But every guess she makes is way off the mark. Once they get to the carriage they're supposed to drive, Christian is hit by yet another uninvited guest tagging along on this journey. And that person is, of course, his little brother. Thurn was expecting his arrival like a snobby brother, something Chris didn't expect. Apparently the kid wants to watch over him, in case he returns to his scoundrel self again. Also, it doesn't make it any better that this man reveals his intentions of gambling. Dude's trying to have a portfolio like the Tate brothers. Gambling isn't exactly a bad thing, especially since they're demons, and it's an activity recommended by their king. To make sure things go right, Thurn wants to follow his brother, which gives Chris the impression that he's really starting to worry for him. He teases the kid about it, causing a funny reaction from his baby brother. Thurn wants to beat him at the game, while Chris is starting to realize he's going to have so much fun exploiting the crap out of him. Arriving at their glamorous destination, both Marie and Thurn are stunned. To properly attend the event, Chris hands them a bunch of masks to wear to ensure their disguise. Also, he tasks her with a secret mission that Thurn doesn't know about. Chris simply instructs him to follow along, and shortly afterwards, they make their way inside the building. Immediately, they're taken as a joke by the people around. They were like fresh bait to line up their pockets after all. In the mood to have some fun, Chris makes a bet with his brother. The goal is to make the most amount of money in 1 hour, and the loser gets to decide a title for the other person. Chris picks out a long-ass title for his brother to call him upon his loss, and he excellently exploits his little brother's ego to force him into accepting the bet. The little brother goes on ahead with a fiery resolve. As for Chris, in his first game he wins rather easily, but he knows the dark secrets of the gambling den. The house is smart. It goads your ego by slowly handing you small wins at the start, and shortly after, pull the rug under you the second their target places a giant bet. Though he knew about their dark secrets, the same wasn't true for his brother. He kept losing because he was caught in their trap. What's worse, Chris was pissing him off in an effort to make him lose even more. As they're arguing about how much money they lost, Chris notices that the con men have already placed their eyes on his brother being a loser. He senses that they'll soon try to exploit the kid. Annoyed, Thurn goes on to gamble some more, even against Chris's warnings. But deep down, this is what he wants. Some time passes and Thurn ends up losing some more. In that duration, Marie, who had turned invisible, already located all of the con men working against them. Meanwhile, poor Thurn loses a staggering 10,000 amount. After the gambling session, Chris goes on to meet a certain merchant. The servants are shocked by his sudden arrival, and he wastes no time by ordering them to call over their master. Grantle of the Merchant Guild happily assists the young lord. He's renowned as the shrewd merchant, but the truth is, he's actually the owner of the gambling den they visited. Chris requests a private chat with the bastard, accusing him of scamming his baby brother with his con men. In his defense, the merchant explains that he has no control over the actions of his men as he only owns the gambling hall. But Marie instills the literal fear of death in this man as he kneels down apologizing for what he did. He pleads for mercy and is willing to offer compensation for the troubles caused. The conversation is right where Chris wanted it to be, as he demands 1,000,000 rupees for the damages. Even the merchant is shocked by his demand and shares that they don't have that kind of money around. So this guy drops the ball and goes all the way down to 200,000 rupees instead. Thankfully, the merchant can afford that, even though it would cost them a lot. Finally, Chris has one last request. The scene jumps to the aftermath of what Chris bought with the amount. He got a lot of combat equipment and even received the Holy Sword Grenade as a bonus artifact. This weapon is truly special, as it was made by the sacrifice of the hero's soul. The weapon remained in use even after the hero's corrupted state, and it was once highly revered by the demons. But in its current state, it is abandoned and gathering dust. Chris has a plan for it eventually. Aside from that, he hands Marie a beautiful pendant that she was eyeing on as a gift, clarifying that this doesn't mean anything else. Marie is stunned, because it's the first time after her death that she received a gift like this. It's truly special to her. Satisfied with his decision, Chris decides that it's time for them to go home. Marie responds with the happiest smile and offers him even more blood juice from now on, which sounds weird until she reveals that the strawberry juice he's been drinking with glee already contained some of it. Bro is hoping to God that it's just some twisted joke from her end. Also, Chris realizes that he's actually forgetting about something, or rather someone. It's actually Thurn, who was robbed to death until he only had 1 rupee left to his name. Thurn roars at his brother for basically sleeping his ass off and abandoning him, because this dude nearly got himself sold off as a slave if not for the fact that someone recognized him. The sleepyhead reminds Thurn that he should be referring to him by a different name. After all, the kid lost a bet after all, so now he has to bear the consequences. A look of horror looms over Thurn's soul as he realizes he has to permanently address his shithead of a sibling by Honorable King Emperor Majesty Big Brother now. He tries voicing the name out loud. The poor guy eats up all the embarrassment while Chris enjoys torturing him. He reminds him to address him with proper respect from now on. Thurn turns to leave, vowing to turn the tables and make him regret this one day, but I doubt that day will ever come. Meanwhile, the playful Chris realizes that his inevitable death will come at the hands of this young boy, and he knows the scumbag Eshid is involved for such an outcome. As the son of Langham, the acting patriarch of his dark magic clan, Eshid is boasted as the top heir of the family, and even though Chris isn't exactly Christian but merely inhabiting his body, if he were to become the heir, it's inevitable for him to ultimately cross paths with Eshid. Knowing what happens to him in the future, he is hell-bent on declaring his revenge against Eshid. But for now, he needs the full support of Melon to worry about. The holy blade known as the Grunade has met many challenges throughout its lifetime, and yet, the only reason no one touches it anymore is because not a single man was able to conquer the blade. Our boy is curious how he stacks up on that list, and grasps it tightly, when all of a sudden issues him a small shock, which means the sword doesn't take a liking to his dark magic powers, which is to be expected considering it is the representation of the light. However, Bro is ready to bend the rules on this one, and believes deciphering the pattern of its magic power should do the trick for him. Then he begins hammering the shit out of the blade, knowing that it's doing something. Showing his conviction, Chris declares that he's got all the time in the world to beat the ever-living shit out of the weapon until it gives up and finally obeys him. The fucking hilarious part about all of this is that even the weapon is shivering hearing him declare that. A few days passed, and Chris turned up at the training grounds to meet his father. To his shock, he sees a familiar woman before his eyes, until the realization reaches him. This woman is none other than the commander of the Black Shadow Knights, a beautiful and stern lady called Marion. She's got a long history behind her, as she's the daughter of the Elder Clan's head, and the master of the Dark Magic Clan, as well as serving as the older sister to his father and Langham. Marion protects the Elder Clan head, and also takes care of any secret missions within the clan. In other words, he was seeing the baddest bitch alive among the elites of the Dark Magic Clan, though that only struck his curiosity on what she was doing here. Count Khazar tells his son about Marion's purpose. Apparently she wants to resolve the matter regarding Cox, and finds it problematic that Chris committed a hasty decision on ending the man's life. Realizing that she might be serving as an ally to Eshid, Chris thinks that he's in trouble. He teasingly remarks that it's interesting for an important figure such as herself to tend to a rather insignificant matter. Addressing the child's boldness, the woman clarifies that it's not she's here for Cox on behalf of her superior, but instead, she's here for Chris. Hearing that, Chris quickly realizes that he may have gotten the golden ticket to finally win the Elder Clan head over. However, Marion is of a different opinion, and thinks that it's arrogant of the boy to challenge someone like Melon while boasting the strength of a mere 2-star warrior. She even suggests calling off the match, but our boy isn't ready to throw in the towel. He reveals his control over Grunade, shocking the woman greatly. Marion wasn't expecting him to be this much of a troublemaker, and even hollers at her brother for saying untrue things about his son. After all, Chris was planning to use a holy sword in the upcoming match. He taunts her, questioning if he's not allowed to use such a weapon, especially since his only objective is to win, no matter the method at his disposal. Marion surprisingly remarks that even the Elder Clan head couldn't conquer Grunade, so a mere boy like Chris is only going to meet his doom for being arrogant enough to use it. However, Chris is in the mood to fuck with her ego and fully unsheathes the blade, revealing that he's got it completely under his control. At first, Marion questions if this is some kind of trickery or if he's using a fake, but the moment she grabs onto the blade, it burns the crap out of her hand, causing her to toss the blade aside. She can't believe that Chris is casually picking up the weapon without any issues. He doesn't give away the main reason, but he does reveal one thing. The only reason he's able to do the impossible is because he's a genius. His confident declaration just now impressed his father, though their attention is thwarted when Melon walks right out and joins the conversation. She's impressed that he was able to tame the blade, but argues that the outcome of their battle will not change, as she'll make sure today is his last. The battle begins with a heavy swing from Melon, causing our boy to go on the defensive. Her speed and strength are on a whole different level, without any restrictions holding her down. Chris's confidence is starting to wane as their blades go on to clash against each other. Since Grunade is a holy sword, it affects the dark power of Melon's blade. But an even more impressive feat is the fact that this boy is maneuvering excellently while using the blade. He's actually pushing Melon back, causing Count Khazar to question how this is happening. The observant Marion breaks down the process of his attacks. Chris is adjusting the demon's energy every second so that he doesn't suffer the backlash from the holy sword. Breaking off from the confrontation, Melon inquires if her opponent was trying to predict her movements just now. Chris playfully shares that he's got a good eye. Now he knows that swordsmanship requires an initial stance to conduct a full attack. For example, a downward strike requires raising one's arm, and your shoulders give off the movement. This detail didn't change whether you were a professional fighter or a beginner. Melon decides to put out all the stops and shocks him with a different approach. She uses some kind of binding spell that catches Chris. Though he was capitalizing on her swordsmanship, Melon reminds him that she's also a mage on top. However, even this doesn't affect him much, as Chris effortlessly dispelled her attack using a purification artifact. Bro has to thank his dad for his artifact, even though Count Khazar doesn't even recall giving it to him. Chris reveals that he's quite the excellent thief, so it's okay. Apart from that, he believes one's equipment is also a testament to their skill. Saying so, he tosses some kind of sphere that explodes up in the air. Melon was distracted when the real orb came from just ahead of her, exploding viciously and wrapping her in the destruction. Chris remembers purchasing this artifact as well, but he knows this much isn't enough to beat his opponent. Melon's blade cuts past the fire and reaches Chris, who not only blocks the attack, but also shatters her weapon with a smile. The more this fight goes on, the more he impresses Count Khazar. Melon emerges from the aftermath of the orb and maniacally reveals that she's having way too much fun. The chick's gone crazy, and she's curious how he's going to deal his next attack. Even Marion is afraid of seeing her lash out in such a state. But Chris capably uses this moment to his advantage, letting her attack slip by as he pins the blade to her neck. The battle is won, much to Melon's surprise, Marion's disappointment, and Khazar's amazement. Instead of being a sore loser, Melon simply lets out a laugh, realizing that he did all that just to make a point. And now, he wants the reward for the proposal he made, though he's also fine with respecting her wishes if she doesn't want to serve him. Melon questions if she can have more exciting duels if she chooses to stick by his side. Chris promises that they'll have tons of battles, and officially his favorite snack. Turns out he's a master manipulator with the smallest of details. Marion is even more stunned to hear that the kid personally baked these for her. Upon taking a bite, she's instantly swooned by the taste. Chris wanted to hear those words. Glad to hear that. Of course, his aunt wants to return him a gift for his gesture, so she lets him ask for anything. This was the moment he was waiting for. Chris deepens his tactic by requesting her to be his true aunt from now on, even though they're already blood-related. Marion wonders if there's a deeper meaning behind the boy's words, and recalls that he's going to participate in the Dark Rite ritual. She realizes that he wants her support in the upcoming succession conflict. Unfortunately, she can't lend him a favor like that. The thing is, the representatives of the main family must be unbiased in the outcome. That is their one and only rule. Chris argues that he wasn't really looking for something like that. All he cares about is having a closer relationship with his aunt. Marion can't believe that this kid has no ulterior motives behind his words. He puts on an Oscar-level acting performance with his adorable face, pleading with her to help him out. Marion likes his forwardness, and knowing that he baked delicious cookies for her, she's taken a liking to him. She requests more cookies from his side on her next visit, and seeing their relationship blossom like this, Count Khazar wipes a tear off his eyes. Chris is out here really trying his hardest, telling his aunt he's gonna fuck up the taste if she doesn't assist him when needed. Marion smiles, addressing the boy, and finally offering him a chance to join the Black Shadow Knights. She's already accounted for his skills for his battle against Melon, and there's a great potential resting inside of him, even greater than the Elder Clan head. But before he's able to bring out that potential, his rivals will pose him a lot of trouble. Marion is worried about that dark future, while Chris reveals that he's okay with dying as long as he's able to conquer the obstacles in his path. Despite her invitation, Chris is confident in his victory and assures her he'll win. This kind of confidence is almost detrimental from her perspective, but she knows that he's an exception and might be telling the truth. That's why she can't stop him. Marion mounts her horse and offers the boy a final piece of advice, strongly warning him against the first young lady. Julianne appears to be the gentlest of them all, but Marion deems her a greater threat than even Eshid, and claims that he'll understand why soon enough. Chris appreciates her advice and bids her farewell. The scene ends with Marion gaining a positive view of her nephew as she returns the farewell. Back in his room, Chris is in a state of contemplation. Marion and his father were both competent 6-star level warriors, but he's yet to hear much about their contribution during the Great War or what role they served. The Magic Empire boasted many combatants, and he guessed that the number would at least be enough to give the forces of light serious trouble. However, he isn't looking for a repeat of his past. For now, he is compelled by the desire to become even stronger. In the next scene, he shares a meeting with his father, who called his boy for a talk. But to his utter shock, he couldn't believe that Chris had already reached 2-star level. The kid has grown to that level in a month's time. Chris is acting casual, reminding his father that he's built differently. Returning to the topic at hand, he wonders what's up. Count Khazar reveals that the main house has contacted them, and that he told them about the participation of both Thurn and Chris for the Sacred Dark Ritual. Unfortunately, only Thurn was approved to join the competition, and it's because of Chris's shitty reputation of wasting their family's wealth and engaging in all kinds of heinous acts. The allegations, or more like straight facts in this case, are hitting our boy like a Mike Tyson uppercut. He gets launched to the ground and is at the verge of death when his father oddly voices support for his son. Chris gets up and asks if Langham was responsible for the main decision. But as it turns out, it's someone else's hand at play. Both father and son realize that it's the working of Loin de Baron. Loin is the direct descendant of the main house and the main celebrity of the ceremony. Let's explore what the Holy Dark Ceremony is truly like. It's a ritual where certain candidates share a special kind of darkness extracted from the dimensional shadow. Since the amount is limited and can only be shared to a certain extent, candidates are supposed to brawl it out to vouch for their competence. This also means that the more powerful candidates end up with the most amount of darkness. As a consequence, that is the key to becoming the family's heir or the prince. In this case, Loin's victory will make him the 6th prince, and if that happens, Chris's plans will be shattered. Count Khazar emphasizes that he'll speak to them once more, and they can always use Marion if something happens. But Chris stops him believing he's more than capable of handling this situation. Khazar grabs his shoulder, acknowledging the boy's talent. However, he wants to support him this time, a gesture that the kid really appreciates. However, this kid is a bratty scoundrel who has his own ways of doing something, and he makes an ugly, villainous face just to prove his father a point. The boy questions if Count Tyraman's family is also participating in the ceremony. Turns out the 3rd son is indeed a participant, and that kid, who is even more of a lowlife than Chris, ended up vouching against his participation. Seeing his father's temper tantrum, Chris is realizing that his father really loves his children apparently. He tells him to calm down, as he intends to make his haters eat their words. He knows that the Tyraman family hosts the Ebony Hunt event, so he's just going to become a participant of that hunt. The scene cuts to Marion returning to her lord after completing her mission. She speaks highly of Chris, much to the Elder Clan head's surprise, who remembers the kid being a fool and nothing more up until to this point. Of course, Marion believes that he's changed quite a lot, so the Patriarch proceeds to ask if the boy meets the qualifications to fulfill his wish. The commander reflects that this wish, the one that he's so desperate about, requires overturning fate itself, the desire to break the shackles of death with forbidden magic. Though Marion is unsure at this point, she can say one thing with confidence. The kid is the closest chance of him ever achieving that impossible wish. Hearing those words, the Patriarch is glad, even though the family consensus is against his participation in the Dark Ceremony. Of course, not even the Lord Patriarch is willing to oppose the decision, because he thinks the kid should be able to find a solution for himself to overcome this challenge. Despite Marion arguing otherwise and vouching for the support of the kid's participation, the old geezer hauntingly quiets her shut. In her reflection of his demeanor, Marion remarks that this is just the kind of man he was. He had exceptional expectations and became ruthless in response. The Elder Clan head wasn't expecting her to speak so highly of the boy. Declaring bloodsucker, he calls for Simon, who is the head steward of the clan. Having heard the conversation in its fullest, Simon is tasked with the duty to watch over the boy in close proximity, observing his every action until the Holy Dark Ceremony. Though he's happy to execute that command, Simon also wants to play a little prank on the child. The head Patriarch looks over with a cold stare and reminds him not to get too comfortable. Something tells me bloodsucker over here is dangerous as hell. Meanwhile, Marion wishes for the child to do his best, clearly worried for what's to come. The scene goes back to Chris, who's enjoying his analysis. Having reached the 2-star level poses a new challenge, and that is reaching the 3-star level, which seems far away for now. It's exactly why he requires Ebony, and with it, he can gather a ton of magic in a relatively short amount of time. Thanks to the Tyraman family hosting the Ebony Hunt event, he's lucky to participate at this time. The only issue? It's that, even after achieving the goal of capturing Beast Carrazzo, acquiring Ebony isn't guaranteed. A special condition has to be fulfilled to fully get your hands on it. Chris exits the carriage, meeting the old merchant who appears empty-handed. The moment he lets out his bag, our boy tosses it and reveals a bunch of damn coins as a gift for him. Clearly, he wasn't looking for these as a gift. Chris teases the crap out of him, reminding him that he knows about his illegal dealings going around, and how the fat man has been avoiding taxes as well. These sudden fact checks are killing the man, but Chris is more than happy to turn a blind eye as long as the merchant cleans up his mess. Lastly, he's come here for a little something called the Grey Pill. It's an exquisite item only available on the black market. And what do you know? It's expensive as fuck. Chris doesn't give a damn and asks Marie to use her methods. The chick goes batshit crazy and whips out her torture weapons to get him. It's the easiest method because this guy instantly folds, much to Chris's amusement. On top of that massive request, he also wants him to catch a good dagger and some armor for him alongside it. Saying that, he boards the carriage. and while the old man is cursing the shit out of him on the inside, he crumbles in defeat. Marie learns that the young master has one more destination to take care of before returning home. He tells the coachman to stop and goes his way. Marie sees him staring down some kind of aphrodisiac. This pink elixir seems intimidating to our boy, while Marie is out here questioning if he's been engaging in sus activities lately. Chris denies the allegations while Marie's graphics bump up to 100 with that JoJo-ass stare. Chris apparently needs the aphrodisiac for someone else, specifically his father, who appears to be getting older. As for the server, he tells the bastard to keep this conversation secret until his grave. Anyway, Chris returns to meet his father alongside his brother. Torturing Thurn like he should, bro, makes him say out his long-ass title. Thurn simply advises his brother not to get hurt during the ebony hunt, while our boy teases him for being worried about his brother. Their quarrel is stopped with their father ordering Chris to beat the crap out of the Tiedemann family's contestants. The genius mage promises that he'll return with good news. Funnily enough, Count Khazar is still not over the long title and teases Thurn about it as well. The scene cuts to the Tiedemann estate, where an orange goblin waiter doesn't permit Chris to enter the manor. Chris learns that the young Lord Alois has issued an exclusive order, forbidding him from entering. Applying pressure with his words, the young master questions if he's being told to stay elsewhere in the capital. Poor Goblin is intimidated, but alas, he basically says yes. Though Chris's servants jump in to protect his name, he stops them and continues to apply pressure, asking who's going to pay for the hotel. The servant responds that he can merely charge the Tiedemann family for it, which is music to our boy's ears. Something tells me this man is about to break their bank. And that's exactly what happens, because this smartass actually goes for the wildest hotel, which is going to cost them 100,000 rupees for their stay. Chris is more than happy to burn someone else's money while he's at it. While they're discussing what to do next, the trunk opens with Marie popping out like a terrible surprise. Chris wasn't expecting this outcome and wonders what the hell's wrong with her. She ended up hiding in his luggage as his most loyal maid. Chris is clearly annoyed when all of a sudden, Alois the Third Prince roars at him for handing them a giant bill. Our boy treats him like a joke, despite Alois being the star of the ebony hunt for the year. Of course, Chris didn't just want to stay in any hotel, so he picked the nicest estate he could think of. He taunts Alois for being mad, especially when he's the one who issued that kind of order. Getting pissed, Alois unleashes a beast, ready to throw hands right here and now. This creature is actually the Tiedemann-style beast, with an ability to control magic. Different from the taming techniques, this technique involved the usage of dark magic to control beasts through fear. Certain feelings are instilled within the creature, and the process is complex, requiring time to master. Regardless, Chris doesn't give a damn as he's more than happy to beat down the kitty cat. He asks Marie to whip out their own defense against a scary kitty like the one in front of them. In response, Chris prepares himself a damn staff, provoking Alois to come try him out. The enraged prince releases the intimidating creature to attack Chris. And I'm not gonna lie, he might have blocked that lunge just now, but that must have taken some serious balls to stand his ground. The creature actually knocks Chris aside, making him taunt the third prince for abusing numbers in a fight. He lays down a condition. The condition is simple. If he wins this battle, he's going to join the ebony hunt as a bodyguard, and not a drive man. Alois is too busy getting enraged. He mounts the creature and attempts to crush Chris in a single attack. The beast actually shatters the ground upon impact, but the human is nowhere to be found. Bro pops up from behind like a sneaky-ass ninja and beats the shit out of Alois with his wooden stick of destruction. After eating a good portion of his attacks, Alois gets even more agitated. However, this time, when the creature tries to charge up on him, it sees something. It is driven back by the intimidating fear of death looming over Chris, causing it to whimper away like a scaredy cat. Alois, now even more ashamed, doesn't know what's going on. The funny thing is, all Chris had to do was chalk up an illusion spell to fool the creature, but he thinks it works like a charm against silly creatures. The third prince refuses to bow down and conjures a second beast in its place. This time it's a horse. Chris is unafraid and lectures him on an interesting tidbit regarding punks. Then he lunges forth sharply, knocking his fucking ass out with a single strike. Chris completes his sentence, emphasizing that he isn't gonna wait the entire fucking chapter to end just to let his opponent whip out an ability. Bro really said this isn't Dragon Ball Z and you ain't Goku turning Super Saiyan 3. The indulgent young master is enjoying a gambling session shortly afterwards. Yeah, apparently this is his way of resting, which is quite the expensive rest if you ask me. The scoundrel merely wants to enjoy honoring his name. Marie is okay with him doing whatever the heck he wants, so long he doesn't drink. Poor guy has to deal with ginger ale instead of alcohol, which is arguably a tougher battle than the one he had earlier. The servants of the Tiedemann family are baffled to keep an eye on this guy upon Arlos's orders. Churs turns to offer them a chance to enjoy the game with him. After all, he did end up kicking their master's butt, so there's a good chance Arlos won't be waking up until tomorrow. The offer seems tempting, but his servants are loyal to Arlos, so they decline him. Well, what ends up really happening is this guy getting fully knocked out after indulging a bit too much. Bro is so out cold that even the servants think they shouldn't worry about him anymore. They're just gonna file the report and check in for the day. The funny thing? This was his plan all along. Chris effortlessly manipulates them and wonders if they're about to move. He packs his stuff, telling Marie not to follow him, which, as you can expect, must be a really tough call for the freaky maid. Also, remember the aphrodisiac from earlier? She still thinks he's using it for himself instead of his father. Marie is ashamed that he's going out to enjoy some time with the ladies. Chris is baffled by her lack of filter because apparently she thinks in a singular dimension only. The scene cuts to the Kython mountain range, which is supposed to be the hidden domain of the Tyraman family. Demonic beasts run rampant here, which is why Chris is locating their hunting ground. He quickly finds it and thinks the security is pretty crap with only 2 guards protecting the place. Thanks to his invisibility magic that he learned from his stupid maid, he's able to go right past them without worrying about getting caught. Walking right up to the altar, Chris knows that this is where the accumulated darkness reaches its climax. The place is just as spooky as he thought, but now he has to think of a way to gather the darkness. Recalling his conversation with a damn furry, he remembers that the goal is to make Corazzo take its own life. The beast must be driven to extreme fear, to the point it sees death as its only way of escape. In the conflict that will follow a feeling of terror and joy, a perfect moment will arise, where light will transform into darkness. It's also the reason Tyraman controls beasts through their darkness hunts. Right now, Chris's true goal is to steal their secret technique, and allow the mix of aphrodisiac he obtained to send Corazzo into a forceful frenzy. Then he'll steal the darkness for himself. But unfortunately, he doesn't have enough time to master the technique, so he tries for an alternative way. Suddenly, Chris feels a terrifying presence, causing him to jolt back and wonder if there's someone around. But surprisingly, no one is there. He is drawn to an empty cave, which upon entering, he feels an incredible force of malice greeting him. This ominous place has a high-level dark magic barrier cast all over it. To his shock, what he is witnessing before his eyes is the Rift of Gehenna. Gehenna is actually the domain of the demons and fiends, and it is all kinds of scary. It's the one place connecting to the human realm, which leads to an interesting idea. Chris could actually force Corazzo to this place using his perfect aphrodisiac serving as the bait. Convinced of this method, he thinks he's got what it takes to fulfill the hunt. But as he's turning around to leave, the bloodsucker pops out of the blue, impressed and intrigued by the young master's actions so far. He was there to witness Chris's fight against Arlos and his impressive manipulation against his servants. Now the child was about to unfold an elaborate scheme too. It excited the Grand Steward to play with him. Thinking of a plan, Simon reaches out to grasp the Rift of Gehenna, which ends up leaking blood as a consequence. The Rift calls out for his name, dubbing him as the Betrayer in a shocking plot twist. Simon makes his move. The day of the hunt is here at last, with Arlos representing the flag of his family. Chris talks some shit in his face for acting high and mighty despite getting his butt whooped. Arlos claps back by mocking him for bringing the unusable holy sword, but Chris thinks he should test the weapon's integrity by beating him with it. Their banter comes to a close when the third prince orders his team to lure Corazzo to the altar. He wants the guards and the mages to follow him. While this is happening, Chris is wary of the secret bat eyeing them down. He's happy to assist the bratty prince and goes on to wait for the others at the altar. The mage is annoyed by him and asks him to sit around if he's gonna act like a nuisance. Chris happily takes up on that offer and freely goes away, causing the mage to get enraged. Arlos controls him and emphasizes that they should focus on the hunt. Chris is told to guard the flag like the scoundrel he is, which is the easiest task in the world for now. As he's enjoying himself, he knows things are going his way. Also, he ended up acquiring the dagger and orb from Grantel just as planned. Chris observes Arlos and the mage busy with observation. He senses Corazzo's presence as the beady-eyed beast arrives at last. From one look, you'd probably think this dumb animal is the cutest creature ever. Arlos is prepared and releases the magic ritual to bind the creature. But despite his tampering, Corazzo only gets enraged instead of enticed under his command. The third prince didn't anticipate this outcome and gets bitch-slapped into the ground. The mage rushes to check on his master. To make matters worse, he's been inflicted with poison, causing the mages to erect a defensive barrier immediately. But watching this battle from afar, Chris believes nothing will go their way, especially since he's already caused the beast to go wild using the aphrodisiac. Thankfully, Arlos had the antidote on him, but even he knows they're going to face some serious trouble if this is what they're up against. The guards jump in to drive the creature back, but let's be real. They're not going to do anything against a giant enraged bird who tackles them away with its sheer size. Arlos is about to get slammed into the ground and braces for impact, when suddenly, Chris comes for his support, defending against the attack while at the same time savagely grilling Arlos to the ground. Bro tells him that he's pathetic and that he's willing to help as long as the third prince refers to him as a brother. Arlos is resistant until Chris amuses the possibility of letting this wild creature go on, unleashing its fury against the prince. The bodyguards are already down, and the barriers aren't working. Arlos, despite his ego, begs the scoundrel to help him. Pleased to hear those words, Chris happily swipes away the creature with the swing of his weapon. He then uses a binding spell, shocking Arlos greatly with his sudden usage of the technique. However, in reality, he was just using a mockery of the original technique. It was nothing more than a mid-level technique. The beast Carazo resists, but luckily Chris controls it exceptionally well. Arlos realizes what's going on. Chris fooled him and took control of the beast for his personal goal. He leads Carazo all the way up to the secret cave of Gehenna. The place instills the fear of death inside the creature, until it reaches the golden state he was waiting for. Capitalizing on this opportune moment, Chris plunges his blade into the creature's body. By the time Arlos and his men arrive there, it's already done. The third prince is worried for their safety and emphasizes that they should leave as soon as possible. But Chris has no plans of doing so, and shows them the ashen orb he acquired from the beast. Clearly this wasn't what they were expecting. The mage roars at him for intervening, while Arlos actually does a 180 and thanks our boy for saving the lives of his men. After all, it's only because of him that they avoided a darker fate. It almost makes Chris feel bad, especially since he secretly ruined the hunt for him by swapping the orb with a fake. Still, Chris isn't about to fold, and reminds Arlos that he's got to refer to him as a senior brother from now on. It's a teasing remark to someone who is years older than you already. In the middle of their banter, both of them experience a sudden and overwhelming pressure emanating from nearby. Two terrifying eyes stare down at them from the dark. Chris knows that they're in deep trouble the minute he lays his eyes on a demon of Gehenna. This giant monstrosity greets them with a scary face, and jumping to his protection, Arlos tells our boy to run away while he still can. I'm starting to like him a lot more now. That's a nice change. Taking note of the damn bat spying on them, Chris launches his blade aimed right at the bat, forcing a disruption to Simon's signal. He can't believe that the child noticed his connection, and now that his bat has been destroyed, he can't do anything in case things go wrong, not even after using his bloodline arts. Simon realizes he should hurry immediately, or else they will all die. Back to the cave, Chris expresses that he despises being secretly spied on. The demon laughs, believing that it's a death wish for the boy. Recalling his battles during the Age of Ruin, Chris knows for a fact that this guy is at least at the 5-star level. This means he can't face ugly Sukuna over here, but he can do one thing. Arlos shouts at him for wasting his magic power, and since Chris's sleeping spell didn't work on him just now, Bro deploys the old school method of punching the daylights out of him. With the prince unconscious, the demon amuses the possibility of a sacrifice being offered. The funny thing is, he's even ready to spare Chris for the tribute. Our boy tells him he yaps way too much and whips out the holy sword grenade. The demon is impressed, but he thinks it's pointless to take out a weapon that not even Chris himself can't use. He unleashes his first attack, causing Chris to block it. But even as competent as he is, he gets overwhelmed by the attack to the point he's coughing blood. Things are looking really bad, and the considerate demon offers the boy a second chance to sacrifice his companions. But nah, this guy is a born savage and plans to keep it that way as he spits in the demon's face. It's the closest fuck you without using any words. Chris frees himself and deploys the usage of the ebony he obtained, coating his blade in golden light. The demon of Gehenna is shocked that he's able to control the light despite being a creature of the dark. Chris is happy that he's got the demon shivering already. The demon forces a powerful attack to annihilate Chris from where he stands. In response, our boy unleashes a powerful swing of his blade, cutting right past the sphere of dark and severing the demon's body. But even after expending this much power, Chris understands that his body is not yet ready to control it yet. He faints shortly afterward, recalling the move he used in his previous life. The Dead Sea Flash, the move he used just now, is an ability inspired by the singular ray of light that rests above the Dead Sea. And despite using such a technique, his friend wasn't worthy